And for those who enjoy this channel and would love to support us financially, please feel free to hit that donate link. We'd greatly appreciate it. God bless.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yes, we're live here tonight on Standing for Truth with another really, really good debate discussion. It's going to be a little bit of formal and informal. Two really, really good debaters who need, no introduction. You've seen them before. We got Mark Drysdale and Bill Morgan, both extremely well spoken. So that means we're looking forward to a debate and discussion that's certainly going to be one to remember. So thanks so much, guys, and to the debaters, of course, for giving us your time. What we're going to do before we even get into any type of openings or anything like that, we're just going to break the ice. We're going to give both Bill and Morgan just a couple minutes to introduce themselves, tell us what they do, what they're up to, how everything's coming along during these difficult times. So why don't we start it off with Bill. Bill, if you want to kind of take the floor and give us a brief introduction.
All right, well, first I'd like to thank you guys for hosting it. I'd like to thank Mark for our discussion today. My name is Bill Morgan. I was raised going to church. I was an atheist for 12 years. when my biology teacher told me the theory of evolution was a fact. And science is what brought me back to believing that there is a God. But I needed the science resolved, that there is a designer and that science glorifies God. I've been an engineer for 37 years. I love engineering. I love engineers. I've heard Mark's an engineer. And in the world of engineering, it's got to work. We can't get by on words and drawings. Either the air conditioning system works or it doesn't. And I think this debate is on the same lines. Does it work or not, what we are proposing? But once again, it's an honor to meet you, Mark, and thanks for sponsoring the debate.
Awesome.
Thanks
I really
a lot, Bill.
appreciate that intro. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, well, I too do the same thing. I actually, most of my career has been in the motorsports industry. I've worked for companies like KTM, Shelby out of Las Vegas, Bombardier. Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff. And then I got into the packaging industry where I made air pillow machines and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of a self-taught CNC machinist. And then, like I said, I engineer a lot of components for cars, for the motorsports industry. And then, as everybody may or may not know, my love my entire life has been in the animal kingdom, looking after not just big cats. To me, all animals are beautiful. Anything from a raccoon to a full-size lion is just as spectacular to me, and is just as awe-inspiring as you know, bunnies to lions to tigers. They all mean the same to me. They all have the same complexity. They all have the same beauty. And to be honest with you, they all have the same love towards people. So it sounds like Bill and I have quite a bit in common, and really looking forward to tonight. I know it says Tammy Drysdale here on my screen. That's because I guess I'm signed in under my wife's account, but my name is Mark Drysdale, and I live in Ontario, Canada, and I'm really looking forward to talking to Bill tonight.
Awesome. And yeah, I want to tell the audience I'm going to make sure that I put the link to your YouTube channel, Mark, in the description, because I was busy checking it out yesterday, watching your videos. Really, really good videos, and I want to recommend them to anybody who's interested, especially in animals and especially big cats. So that's awesome. You know, what I'm hearing is we've got a couple of intelligent, well-informed individuals here. So like I said before, this is going to be a great and respectful discussion. I'm moderating tonight. We've got Praise here is going to be co-moderator, mainly just kind of grabbing questions from the live chat. So make sure you tag either myself or Praise. Praise is going to be looking at the chat for the duration of the debate. He'll save any questions for the Q&A time. So that being said, why don't we get right into it? I've got, for today, I've got a 12-minute opening, 6-minute rebuttal. Now, I should say any time that's not used in the opening, I'm just going to throw right into the discussion. The discussion seems to be everybody's favorite part, so we'll make that the longest portion of the debate, ending with 6-minute concluding statements and a question and answer. So yeah, enough for me. If everything's okay with everybody else, maybe we'll jump right into Bill, I believe, is starting for your 12-minute opening.
Okay, I'm going to share screen. Let's see. Whoops. All right. Can you guys see that beautiful animal?
Let's see. Praise, can you make sure Bill's screen is shared? I personally don't see anything yet.
Okay, let me
Let's
try.
see. Bill, as long as you, let me see, the 4th button, share screen. I think you might have to click it twice. And then,
Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm sorry.
and unfortunately, Bill, you're already over a minute into your opening, so I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Won't start it up till you're ready. You just let us know, and then I'll start the timer.
Okay, I'm going to make a little note here. Okay. Once again, it's an honor to be on this debate and talking with Mark, and the topic tonight is creation versus evolution. How did we get here? And he's thinking the same thing we are, right? So, how did we get here? Very important. I'm not asking if you know how we got here. I asked for your best explanation because neither one of us was there in the beginning, so we don't know. So we're doing our best with what we see today to explain it. So the debate is about the best explanation of how we got here. There's 3 questions that I hope we can address. And again, I'm looking for the best explanation. Number 1, how did matter and energy originate? What is your best explanation? We're both engineers. We both studied thermodynamics. The first law teaches matter and energy is neither created nor destroyed. So, translation, matter and energy do not poof from nothing by natural means. So what is Mark's best explanation for the origin of matter and energy? The second law of thermodynamics is called time's arrow. It tells you the direction the processes take. The second law of thermodynamics teaches available energy, which is energy that can do work, over time turns into unavailable energy, energy that's just useless heat. So again, to me, that's a powerful argument for a creator, and I'd like to see Mark's explanation on that with all due respect. I'm very old. This is my textbook from way back in college. The authors see the second law of thermodynamics as man's description of the prior and continuing work of a creator, who also holds the answer to the future destiny of men and the universe. So sometimes people say, oh, Bill, you don't know thermodynamics. Well, these authors had that in the book, and I don't know if it's still in there. My next question for Mark is, what is your best explanation for the origin of life? Neither one of us knows. We weren't there. But what's your best explanation? The law of biogenesis and the cell theory teach life can only come from life. That's not religion. That's scientific. Did we get here by design or by chance? What is your best explanation? Again, we don't know. What's your best explanation? Quick definitions. A design is something that is planned. Chance is something without planning. So hopefully we won't get into word games, but if we do, we do. Okay? So I like to propose that God doesn't make things. God makes systems. Systems are many, many components working together to make another system work. And I propose systems cannot evolve by a step-by-step process in living things. Living things need all the systems to work. Now, engineers love feedback control systems. That might sound scary, but it's not. It's just like a furnace with a thermostat. A feedback control system monitors the output and adjusts. For example, in Canada in the winter, you got to control the heat. A feedback control system is what does it. It monitors the system. Now, engineering is a house of cards. I'm sure Mark has. I know I have. I've designed things and everything went right except for one little thing. Nothing works. And then you fix that. Living systems are also a house of cards. Many, 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 many things have to work. And if one doesn't, you're dead, which is much more tragic than an engineering system. So I propose living systems glorify a creator and falsify a step-by-step evolutionary process. So is my design challenge thing being blocked? Can you guys read the design challenge?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, the $100 trillion challenge. This is something that I find interesting. I would like Mark to pretend that he is funded with unlimited money. He can hire unlimited engineers, but he has to design and build a dog from scratch. Could he do it? Now, dogs are a system. When I teach these classes, I often say to the audience, you are on my engineering team. Find the first letter of your last name, and this is what you need to design. And I understand Mark's last name is Drysdale. So we look at our list and we see the digestive system. Again, with all respect and dignity, I ask Mark, could you design and build a digestive system for a dog? You could hire 10 million brilliant scientists and engineers. Could you build a dog's digestive system? Let's learn about the dog. There's many, many systems to make the digestive system of a dog. Which part of the body determines if a dog is hungry? The stomach, the intestines, the brain? It's the brain. Now, the brain tells the dog it's hungry. It starts with, get rid of that. It starts with a hormone in the stomach, noticing there's a lack of nutrition. A hormone is thrown into the blood system, goes to the hypothalamus, and that dog is hungry. This is a feedback control system. Feedback control systems cannot evolve by a step-by-step process. How does a dog decide to know what to eat? Or a cat? They sniff food they've never sniffed before, and they'll eat it. That's instinct. To me, instinct is information pre-programming by a god. They don't learn by trial and error what to eat and what not to eat. Let's talk about the digestive system. It all starts with those teeth. A fair question to ask, are teeth the result of design or chance? Let's look at the details on this beautiful dog's teeth. The front of the teeth are designed for scraping. The fangs, or called canines, are designed for tearing and grabbing. I see a fantastic design here. The premolars are for shredding and chewing, and my son calls these the mountain teeth. I love that name for it. They're the molars for crushing. Fair question, is that a design? Well, we could ask the pit bull, and he says it's a well-designed system. Okay? If we saw piano keys, we'd say, wow, what a beautiful design. Nobody would think piano keys with their fitting together could happen by chance. Look at how the teeth fit. And Mark, when you look at your cats, when you see your teeth, I hope you think about this debate. That's a design, and I believe that's a design as well. What amazing thing in dogs? Lubricates food, lubricates the mouth, breaks down carbohydrates, cleans the dog's mouth, fights infection, makes electrolytes, and gets the digestive system ready. Saliva. Saliva is something we don't think about too much, but it's a fantastic design, and animals and people have many different glands to make it. Just real quick, I couldn't draw that in a billion years. I sure couldn't design it and build it. It takes an amazing, great God to do that. And saliva is a feedback control system. The dog has its eyes on some food, and the control feedback system is in operation. Polite question again. Do you really think something like this could happen by chance? The drawing alone couldn't happen by chance, much less the dog. So, could you build and design the saliva system? Or could nature build it? If Mark and his engineers couldn't, nature couldn't do it. And we're just touching the beginning of the digestive system. The dog needs a tongue, a beautifully designed muscle to help it swallow, to help it transfer heat. That tongue is a marvelous design. Just think if chance made the tongue wider than its teeth. There's a million details just in the tongue. One of my favorite things in the body is the epiglottis. The dog breathes air and takes in food. Well, the food goes to the stomach and the air goes to the lungs. Why? The epiglottis. When you are swallowing, millions of nerves fire and the epiglottis covers the trachea so the food will only go to your lungs. Something we take for granted, but a beautiful, beautiful design and another control feedback system. On to the esophagus. Very important thing. Peristaltic contractions. When the food goes into the dog, by peristaltic contractions, it moves to the stomach. It's like the wave at a baseball game where it slowly contracts to move the food. This is another beautiful feedback control system where it recognizes data and makes a product result. The stomach, we could talk about 100,000 things, but I've only got a couple minutes. I'll talk about one. Stomachs have an acid of pH, a pH of 2, to digest meat in the stomach. Well, why doesn't this acid digest the stomach? The reason why? Because the system designs mucus to keep the acid off the stomach. Here's a pretty cool picture. The acid has a pH of 2. These beautiful cells make a pH of 7 and keeps the acid off the stomach. Another feedback control system. Stomach question, what evolved first? The cells that make the acid or the cells that make the mucus?
You've got 3 minutes, Bill. 3 minutes.
Thank you. The animal would be dead if one evolved before the other. It would either starve to death because it couldn't digest, or it would burn its insides up from the acid. They have to appear at the same time. There are hundreds of more systems to support the digestive system. The pancreas, the liver, etc., the colon, the small intestine, but I don't have enough time, of course. All of these are designed. Systems cannot evolve. This is a mature question. It might sound immature, but what evolved first? The mouth or the anus? They have to be there at the same time. So a quick question for Mark. Could anything in nature be so complex that you would say that's got to be a design? I think the dog digestion could do it. And here's a quote from a veterinarian. Digestion involves the balanced interaction of several biodynamic systems. Nature has an IQ of 0. Creationists believe in a designer with an IQ of infinity. Did we evolve from apes? I got to go fast. There's 8 billion people on Earth. What do we observe? They all have human parents, human grandparents, human great-great-grandparents. There's 1 million apes. Aren't they beautiful? All they make is apes. There's 0 ape men. This should be a big problem for an evolutionist. And evolutionists admit they haven't found it. I'm going to skip this, but they cannot find the transitional forms. The key to science is observation. Evolutionists admit there are no ape men. Then why believe that there were? That's philosophy. That's not science. Apes, oops, I messed up my slide. Apes make apes. People make people. Ladybugs make ladybugs. It's not religious. That's genetics. Where are the transitional forms? Some people think they're in the fossils. A bat shows up suddenly in the fossil record, supposedly 52 million years ago. No change. Ants show up suddenly in the fossil record. No changes in 99 million years. Snakes show up. They're unchanged for 150 million years. Where is the evolution? It's not living. It's not fossilized. Maple leaves show up suddenly in the fossil record.
30 seconds, Bill. 30 seconds.
Coming up to my best slide here. At 270 million years, no change. I'd like to talk about maple leaves for a second. Mark, do you recognize that guy?
I'm not a hockey person.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, can I just interrupt in standing? Take your time on these slides. I think we'll make tonight's debate about your presentation. It's got more than enough information in it that I think what we'll do is we'll get you to go back to the beginning of your slides, and we'll just take one question by one question, and we can kind of make tonight about it instead of covering a lot of stuff. So if it's okay with you standing, pull the clock down. And let's let them go slowly through these, and then we'll go back to the beginning because I just can't write this fast. And we'll start taking these questions one by one because they're all excellent questions and they're going to be tough to answer, and it'll make for a good night. So take your time if that's okay with standing.
I'm absolutely fine with that. I think that's a good idea. It's up to Bill. Are you fine with that, Bill?
Oh, absolutely. My goal is not to overwhelm someone with a ton of questions. My goal is to get information out in a short amount of time.
Yeah. Okay. So take your time.
In that case, take your time, Bill. When we're done, we'll kind of go from there. Go ahead.
Okay. I was born in Buffalo, New York in March of 1960. Just kidding, guys. No joke there. But I'm a big hockey fan. This is a famous Toronto Maple Leaf, and Mark is from near Toronto. And so I thought I had a good little segue that Maple Leafs haven't changed for 270 million years. And the Toronto Maple Leafs have not won a Stanley Cup since 1967. Dave Keon, he admits he's a design. Dragonflies show up suddenly in the fossil record, but they're unchanged for 300 million years. Buckle your seat for this one. Cyanobacteria shows up suddenly in the fossil record, but no change for 3.5 billion years. The creationists would say the cyanobacteria, the leaves, were designed as leaves instantly, and there would not be any change because that's what they've been throughout history. These organisms are not evolving, and you don't have to take my word for it. You could show 100 of living fossils, they're called, where there's no change. So the fossils tell us sudden appearance. That means they show up suddenly in the fossil. There's no transition for spiders or snakes or leaves. And stasis. They haven't changed. No evolution. So, getting back to these three questions as we all seek truth, I was a former atheist, and science is what brought me back. How did matter and energy originate? What's your best explanation? How did life originate? And dog digestion, is it design? Mark, this is for you. And Mark, everything I give you is like a love letter. I'm not being weird or anything, but I respect you and I love your zeal and passion. Which one of these is the result of a skilled artist? The tiger on the left, the tiger on the right, or both? I propose both of them are the result of a very, very skilled artist, but I would say the artist of the tiger on the right is much superior, much great. And Mark, I truly believe, I like to ask people this, why did God make tigers beautiful? Butterflies beautiful? And this is actually my last slide. And I don't want Mark to feel like he's on a witness stand, but do you think perhaps if there is a designer, he made things beautiful for a reason, Mark? I think that's my last slide. And that's my opening slides.
Go one more. I want to see those penguins.
Oh, okay.
There was the mistake in your presentation. I was going to actually bring up penguins as proof that it's not intelligently designed. But Bill, that was a very good presentation. You've got some really good stuff that we can talk about. 3 different questions. I started writing them down and then I ran out of room on the page, especially for the what I called the 4th question, but I think it was actually the 3rd. And that's, when it comes to life, how do we start answering, some of these questions? So if it's okay with everyone, my position is I know I've called myself an atheist before. I don't know what it means to be an atheist, and I don't know if anyone does truly know what it means to be an atheist. And let me explain to you why I say that. To be an atheist means that you absolutely have no belief in the supernatural whatsoever. No gods, no supernatural, no life after death, no ghosts, no shadows in the corners, no nothing. You have a mind that can allow you to, and I've said this before, and some of my atheist friends don't like it. Would you, as a self-proclaimed atheist, be able to go, let's say, and it's terrible to talk about these places, but I always use one because they always like to use them on the ghost hunter shows, where let's say you go into a, for lack of a better word, again, I'm 52 years old, I'm not politically correct, but we used to call them an insane asylum. And there were tests done there on people. There were people there that were tortured. Can I just stop for a sec? Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah, you sound good.
Okay, great. In that sense, and I used to belong to an atheist chat group, and I brought this up one day. I kind of said to everybody on there, because somebody was on there being very rude, and they were basically saying, "Oh, these morons, they believe in God. What a weak mind." The stories. They go on, they're insults, they absolutely prove nothing to call somebody a moron. Let's admit it. There are many, many people on this earth, and I don't know how many of I don't want to again say my side, but I don't know how many people are watching that do consider themselves atheists or agnostic or whatever they consider themselves. But how many people out there can truly say to themselves that they have no belief in the supernatural? In other words, could you go to one of these places where thousands and thousands of people have died at the hands of horrific deaths? You watch these ghost hunter shows, you get a chill up your spine when you watch, they'll show a heat signature, and my goodness, it does. It looks like a person walking across the screen. Now, to me, I admit that I have that portion of my brain that believes in this stuff. And here's the thing that I really struggle with, and here's why I almost got myself kicked out of that group, because, like I said, I kind of got little off track here. But I just asked a simple question. I said, "Hey guys, while they're sitting there calling people who have a belief in the supernatural or God, or not be disrespectful, but let's say what you guys consider the God, the Christian God, and they're calling them out and they're calling them names." I just went on there one day and I said, "Yeah, I was just wondering, guys, and I knew where I was going to go with it. What would you think of?" One night just going and grabbing yourself a tent and, maybe on Halloween night setting up and sleeping in a tent and, all by yourself in a graveyard or an insane asylum or a morgue, or, and you wouldn't believe how many guys came back to me and said, "Oh, no, I couldn't do that. That would really play on my mind. It would really, it would be a tough night. It would, I couldn't sleep. Every noise that I heard, I would wonder if, and Then I let them answer this for a while, and then I wrote it and I said, okay, so why are you calling these people all these names? We all share these beliefs. So there's me being honest. We all share these beliefs that there is something that we don't understand. There's something that scares us. There's something that thrills us about the supernatural. Not always scares. I would say, on the evil side, the morgue, the insane asylum, that's the scary side. That would be the evil side of the supernatural. And then of course there's the belief in a god, which fills our spirit with happiness, and a lot of people find strength from this. So here's where I'm really torn on that. And then, like I said, we'll go to Bill's introduction. I just really wanted to make it. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to explain how I think, and this is where I'm really torn between two belief systems. So there's all of that I just admitted to you would be very tough for me as a person with a human mind to do all those things that I just explained. But here's the other side of that coin. Does that more prove evolution? Does it prove a self preservation style of thinking? Is it something that we have evolved ourselves to believe in all these things, to pick out shadows, to pick out movements, to have these constant feelings of fear? And everybody knows what those feelings of fear look like. It's when you walk out to a balcony on a 10-story, the 10th floor of a 100 200 foot tall building, and it's that second when you walk, you look over the edge. It's that every muscle in your body reacts to what your brain is sending to every muscle, every nerve subconsciously. Your head knows that there's a railing there. Your head knows that you're safe, that you're not going to jump. But there's that part of your subconscious that really needs to kick in, because it knows that, wow, this is really dangerous. We cannot trust Bill Morgan, the thinker. We gotta talk to his subconscious here and lock the muscles up. We got to pull this system down, because this is really dangerous. We're standing on the precipice of a 150-foot fall. We need to get involved. So what I'm getting at, and I hope I'm not losing anyone here with my explanation. I hope it's going well. I'm trying to listen to myself while I talk. But is that fear that we have a built-in subconscious fear that has come from years and years and years, and of living in a natural world where if you're not afraid of what's going on in that bush, why is that bush rustling? Why is that shadow moving across the ground? That those people ended up dead. And it is an honest question. I hope Bill standing, and even I am, appreciates the honesty of this, because there is two sides to this coin, and we all feel it, whether we can admit it or not. It's that fight or flight feeling that we have that does take over our muscle systems and shuts us right down. And like I said, just like when you're standing at the edge of a cliff, your mind knows that your conscious mind cannot be trusted, and it needs to pull your nervous system down. It needs to lock your muscles up and give you that shiver. That is the thing that I really fight with in my worldview, is where do these feelings come from? And I'll be honest. And then, like I said, I'll give Bill a little bit of a chance to answer me on this, because this will be my opening. And it was a pretty, well, I don't want to say simple, but it's kind of more just a one question thing that I had for him. And then what I would like to do again is just go over, step by step, all the questions that he asked. And I think that'll make for the most interesting way to have this talk, because all of his questions were very good, and they cover everything basically. And again, I don't want to say from both sides, because everyone's just looking for knowledge, but it really does cover everything that is ever brought up in a debate, the questions that he has asked. So it's going to be more of just a back and forth of, batting ideas off of each other and saying, hey, what do you think of this? Could this be the reason for that? And that's the way I'd like to approach this, because every question that he asked in his opener, I've asked myself. So if Bill wants to just kind of address what I just said and then rewind his opener one screen at a time, I would love to answer every question that I can. And I'll admit you did ask some questions that I can't answer. I can give you my best guess and how I feel about it, and then I may have to resort to just answering the standard evolution answers for everything, but I don't really want to do that, because anyone can look up any debate and say, well, this is what the atheists, if you want to say that, think of this. But I'd rather say what I think of it. So Bill, go ahead, and then we'll get into it. Thank you so much.
Great, very good. God has gifted you with a great mind, Mark. I once heard somebody speak, and I agreed. At first, I said no way, and then I said, wait, that person's right. This might shock the whole world, the whole audience, but everybody is an agnostic. You can say, hey, wait, Bill, you're the creation boy. Well, I could only say I'm 99% sure, but I can't be 100% sure because I was not there. Okay, you follow me? So I would say I'm 99% creationist, 1% agnostic. On the other side of the coin, like Mark talked about, I almost called you Tammy, sorry about that. What Mark talked about, on the other side of the coin, there's no 100% atheist because they weren't there. So they're agnostic too. So I would say that Mark's chat room might have had people who were 97, 98% atheists, but there's still that little agnosticism because they weren't there. And I've been talking to so many people for so long, I'd say I'm at 99% creationist, but I'm still a little bit agnostic because I wasn't there. So we're all agnostic, it's just a matter of degree. So perhaps if I want to respond to your point about self-preservation, but Mark, if I could ask you a fun question. On a scale of 100, well, first, you agree that everybody is agnostic because we're all a bunch of bums just stumbling through life trying to figure things out?
Yeah, I agree with that. I really do.
On a scale of 0 to 100, how certain are you that there is no God? And you really can't be 0 or 100.
Yeah, I would say about 90% is where I would fall. And I'll be honest with you, it's since I started up these debates that I have come across a lot of really intellectually smart people that have made some really good points. And I had wrote Standing an email today, and I told him, I said, I really enjoy the people that you have brought to the table for me, because if at the end of the day I don't go away questioning my belief, then honestly nobody watching is going to walk away questioning their belief, because they're going to be stuck in their opinion. So no, I would say I'm about 90, and I would say when I started the debate community, I would probably say I was 99.9%. So I am definitely moving towards definitely saying I don't know if it's a god. I don't know, but there are some questions that are really tough to answer. It's really, you lose sleep over some of these questions. You really do.
And Mark, I can't speak for other debaters, but I'm sure a lot of them would agree with me. We just don't want to run a debate. I care about you. I've barely met you, but I care about you, that I want you to really seek truth using your brain as much as possible, because I think it's so important. It's not like I'm looking for a brownie point in heaven. I think a lot of creationists, I think the hardcore creationists used to be atheists, and they make the best creationists, perhaps. It's just so important. I'm telling you, I care about you, and that's why I'm honored to debate you tonight. So 90%, okay, keep seeking, keep digging, keep questioning. Question the atheists. See if the atheist can answer the questions without emotion, and then using your gifted brain, decide for yourself. Don't believe me. I'm just an old engineer with a pine tree behind me, right? But seek the truth. And we are all agnostic to a sense. It's just a matter of the degree of it. Regarding, do you want to comment on that? Do you
No,
believe
that's okay, Bill. But I'd just like to say thank you for that comment. But yeah, continue on, and then let's rewind your slide and kind of start from the beginning. Like I said, I'd like to make tonight's debate basically about your presentation because it covers everything that I wanted to bring up.
And would you just quickly agree that a lot of creationists care about you? They don't want to beat you over the head and win a debate. They want to share what they think is the most important thing in life. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That, like I've always said, I'm not here to win a debate. That's why I don't like calling them debates, and I feel I've never participated in a debate. A debate is somewhere we remember them in school. We used to walk in, we'd be handed a card, pro, for or against, and we would argue that side. That this is to me a discussion based on fact gathering. And I don't, like I said, there's no side when it comes to truth. There's truth. That's it. There is no side, and we just got to figure out on all these questions what makes the most sense, and then we got to continue to investigate them and see what the evidence points towards. And that's where it's up to you, me, and everybody else in the earth to make up these tests and these models to prove that their side is the side that we should be looking towards for the truth.
Okay, and I have some notes here. Self-preservation is a fantastic point you brought up. 100 people could go to the edge of the cliff at the Grand Canyon and say, and get those tingles. The Comet roller coaster, there's a natural fear of self-preservation. So let's talk about people standing on the edge of a cliff. We all have a little bit of fear, and it's called self-preservation. And you asked a great question of where does it come from? Well, to answer that, I'd like to say, as I try to speak slowly, there's data and there's interpretation of data. Mark and I could walk into a room and see about 6 chairs in a straight line. And Mark could say, hey, I wonder who set those up. And I'd say, I don't think anybody set them up. I think there was an earthquake and a lot of wind that put them there. Well, the data is there's 6 chairs next to each other, and we're both interpreting the same data differently. He thinks by plan and purpose, I think by chance. Well, let's talk about self-preservation. The data is 100 people at the Grand Canyon don't want to get too close to that cliff. That's the data. We're scared to go to the cliff. I believe that self-preservation is instinct. Instinct is information that I believe is imputed from a source. Information goes from A to B. I believe God has given instinct to me, to Mark, to his lions, to my dog. And I have 3 children, and I used to study them. They would put their fingers anywhere except their eye. They never learned by putting the finger in their eye. So I believe that babies even have instinct not to put it in their eye, and that's not from trial and error or being taught, that God has given instinct to every living animal. And so I believe the fear is not by learning, otherwise people would fall off and die. You don't get a mulligan when it comes to life and death. It's a little golf term. So I believe instinct is a tremendous argument for God. Mark, have you seen any really cool instincts in your cats? And it's kind of amazed you what they do instinctually, like give birth, the way they make their home, clean themselves. What instincts have you seen with your cats?
Well, and here's the big question. And in the whole of the question, is there a designer or is there not a designer? I hate to go here, but I have to ask you, and here's where I have the biggest trouble, is if God needs to follow the story of Genesis. Is that something you believe in? Are you a firm believer in Genesis that this earth started with Adam, then God made Eve for Adam out of a rib? Is that your belief? Do you believe that?
I believe every human has nothing but human ancestors, and that is also based on science. You've heard of mitochondrial Eve?
Yep.
Wouldn't you, my goal is not to, wouldn't you agree that for my side, that's a pretty good argument that humans only have human ancestors?
Okay, but you just kind of asked me a question and didn't give me my answer. I'm sorry, Bill.
I believe Adam and Eve, I believe everything started with one male, one female.
The Adam and Eve story. Okay, so you believe that at the beginning, we were to have Adam. Adam was to live forever. There was to be no death, and then original sin basically caused the system to start winding down, and that eventually caused death. I believe that the story is that Adam died at around 900 years. Is this a fair interpretation? I don't mean to oversimplify it, but I don't want every piece of the Genesis story. But is that kind of what you is that the side that you? Because every debater that I talk to that considers themselves a Christian so far, that's except for one. Sorry, there was God, I can't think of his name. I'm so sorry if you're listening. He was an old Earth creationist. But everyone else has been young Earth. They believe in Genesis. They believe that Adam was to live on to forever. There was to be no death before sin. Is that kind of what you believe?
It's funny that, the timing and the way you asked that. As we talked about, I'm a 99% creationist, 1% agnostic because I wasn't there. So let's say everything adds up to 100, okay? I 99.9% believe life began with one adult male, one adult female. Okay, I 100% believe it, but I've got 99% yes, I believe it, and this much faith. Okay, say 1% faith. Do I believe Adam lived to be 930 years old, which is Genesis 5:5? I 100% believe Adam lived that long. But using my science brain, I'd say I'm at 60%, but 40% based on trust of the Bible. You follow me?
Yes.
I would never rant and rave at you, Mark, and say, of course they lived that long. Hey, there's a lot of things in the Bible that I 100% believe that blow me away. So a lot of that is my faith and trust in the Bible. So I do believe there was one male, one female, 99.9%. Scientific belief. Adam living to be 930, that blows me away, but I believe that based upon the Bible.
Okay, so again, and then after this, let's just kind of promise each other, because this kind of follows up on where I was going. So you asked me what I find in the animal kingdom and what we find in ourselves, that there is this incredible level of instinct for self-preservation. To make sure that when man comes to the edge of that cliff and falls and it does not fall off and die. Here's the part that I think most atheists and the ones that call themselves non-Christian agnostics really have problems with. I think a lot of what scares people like myself away from simply saying there was a creator is the fact that the Bible, so many people cling to this Bible story that there was no death before sin. So the base of that would mean that there was no death. There's no death at all. And it's funny because a lot of what you brought up, like for example, when you brought up the dog's digestive system, you even had mentioned that there was acids that are specifically designed to break down meats. You showed teeth that are specifically designed to be able to rip into muscle and break bones. And this is where a lot of us really struggle, is when we are debating the group of people who insist that Adam was designed to live forever. And when he was first put into the Garden of Eden, God showed him all the animals as a companion. I don't want to go there as far as what they meant by companion, but let's just say to keep him company. And he wasn't content with any of these animals to be his companion. And then woman was made. that is where we really struggle. And then we look at the animal kingdom, and like we talked about here in our opener, how much of our brain is put aside for not conscious thought, for subconscious thought, and how much of that subconscious thought is put aside that we do not die. Again, tells me that either there was a big change, that God created this earth and life, and then completely went back to the ward and wiped it all out and said, nope, let's start again. We're going to allow death, and now we're going to build all these systems that are going to allow animals to eat animals. There is not one thing on this earth that can live without absorbing the energy from something else that is living. And that is where I really struggle, Bill, is how come we see life needing to eat and kill life and then absorb it, digest it, pass it, and then start to create new life through fertilizer, through nitrogen, through the breaking down of let's call it feces for, to cover all animals. The whole system points towards death. And this is where I really have a hard time. And I don't want to make it so that this debate is won or lost based on, do you believe in the Genesis account? But there is no way that I can make the Genesis account work in my mind as far as living organisms not ever being designed to absorb, break down, and pass other living organisms. And then, like I said, what does it mean to have somebody made of bone, gelatin, blood, water, all these things? What does it mean to create a man that was to live for eternity on Earth, that's made like us? Is it even reasonable to believe that? And sorry to grandstand for so long, but go ahead, Bill, and then do a quick answer here, and then I'm going to allow your answer to be the answer, and then I'd like to go back to your opening, because I really would like to cover a lot of those questions. I think it might cover some of these things as well, Bill.
No, it's stimulating thought, and I want to answer your question. And my first one is, are you more of a 90% atheist because of science, or 90% atheist because of the biblical teaching of death?
It would be science, and then I can't find a religion that works, because everything that I read in the Old Testament, King James, doesn't matter which Bible I read, they all include these stories that I can't get them to coalesce with the science of my mind.
But if it were science that made you an atheist, you wouldn't be looking for a religion, would you?
Well, sure, because the fact is, if we're going to say that nature is purely nature, then we can leave it at that. And if we had all the proof in the world, we wouldn't be having this discussion. I wouldn't even bother. It'd be like participating in a flat Earth, that we were laughing here at the opening. But obviously, there are questions here. This isn't a flat Earth debate. There's good points for both sides, and you've brought up a lot of them. So I guess my point would be that I don't see any religion that the teachings of that religion, the basis of that religion, fit with what I see scientifically, again, in animals. I see so much self-preservation that would not be needed, digestive systems that would not be needed, muscles, teeth. We wouldn't even have to eat if we went by the Genesis story, Bill.
Okay. And nothing I say is condescending. Okay. Many, many years ago, I was dating a single mom, and she had a 6-year-old, and it was her birthday, and she was crying. And I said, Danny, why are you crying? She goes, it's my birthday, and it's raining. I said, oh, I feel really bad for you. And she goes, and I prayed for it to be nice. And I love children. I could tell you do too. You're a loving guy. And I says, well, Danny, maybe a farmer prayed for rain. You see, and I respect it. There's the emotional side, like, hey, I don't like this death, this mayhem that we see on this planet. Uh, our ancestors that were all farmers saw death every day, and we're kind of isolated of it now. But I don't like everything I read in the Bible, but I accept it. Uh, my daughter got leukemia when she was 2. Nobody was ever more pissed off at God than me than when my doctor said she has a 50% chance of dying. And my prayers were, God, I still believe in you. I believe you made red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, bone marrow. But God, I got to admit right now, I am really, really pissed off at you. So emotionally, I was a wreck. But intellectually, I knew there had to be a creator and a God. And Mark, I'm sure you've read the Bible. You're a man of knowledge. Fill in the blank. Who said, well, what are the ends of this? Father, Father, why have you what?
Forsaken me.
Right. And you know, Jesus said that on the cross. I got to tell you something cool, which is off the topic. I was so pissed off at God when my dog had cancer, but we saw 12 kids die of cancer too. We see kids screaming in pain. And I'm going, God, this is chaos. But I said, I felt like God or Jesus was looking down at me and saying, you scumbag, how can you be mad at me after all I've done for you? And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm mad at you. I kept reading my Bible when I was angry, and I encourage everybody to read it when they're angry. And in the midst of my anger, I read, Father, Father, why have you forsaken me? And I said, Jesus was pissed off about suffering. He wasn't crazy about being on the cross. He screamed out, why have you forsaken me to the Father? And Mark, you don't have to believe it, but in that biblical teaching, wouldn't you say Jesus was ticked off? Like, why did you forsake me? He understands our weaknesses and our frailties. He was mad at the Father, and that made me feel good that Jesus could explain, we're not crazy about this world of death, extinction, mayhem, and blood that we're stuck in. But there's so many cool places we could go from here. And I don't want to make it like you're on a witness stand, but Mark, would you agree that this is a planet of death and extinction instead of evolution and new life appearing?
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Two things that you brought up, and again, you know, we both keep saying this. We don't mean to be disrespectful, but in my opinion, Jesus should have never been talking to God, because God and Jesus were to be the same, one of the same. But let's leave that at what it is. I'll just make a comment there. You're welcome to say something, but we'll never get out of this loop that we're in right now. And then, you know. Yeah, it's everything that I see does not. Sorry, what was that question you asked just before that? You asked me a question. Sorry.
Do you think that this is a planet of death and extinction, or a planet of life and evolution?
Right. And my point would be there is that is a big problem that I have, is the Earth is an example that wouldn't even show up on a mathematical decimal point of the amount of matter that we have in the universe. And we are the only speck of dust. We're not even a speck of dust. We're not even a quark in the grand scheme of things. And as far as we know, this is the only place that life can exist. And that is another reason, you know, everybody says, well, look at the universe, look at well, you didn't say it, so I'm sorry I said it that way. But a lot of people will say, you know, look at the universe, look at the creation, how it was clearly created for life. I look at it completely the opposite. Not only is, as far as we know, which I don't believe, but as far as we can prove, the Earth is the only place that is habitable for life. But then you could even take it one step further. 99.9% of this speck of dust, if you look inwards, is even uninhabitable for life. So when you look at it that way, that's again where I say to myself, the creation does not look like it was here to support life.
So you would say that where we live, you're in Canada, I'm in California, we're all stuck on Earth. I'm enjoying my time. I hope you are too. I think you are. That this is a planet of death and extinction, and not evolution and new life appearing.
Well, evolution is kind of based on death, is it not? We need,
Yeah.
if we had a system again designed like they say in the Bible, where there will be no death, that would mean that animals would never be able to evolve, because you would always have the older elephants breeding with the younger elephants, and you would never have that horizontal gene transfer where you would have modification through reproduction. So again, what we see and what we read kind of don't work. Now I know you did, and thankfully we're about to touch on some of your opener. You do have some good examples of animals that have not changed. We could even add the alligator on there. They figure the alligator and some turtles haven't changed much from the prehistoric times, back when we had dinosaurs. And I would kind of say to you, well, we wouldn't expect them to. They're very well adapted for the environment that they live in. But can we kind of wrap this? We're still in the openers, is the thing. If we could wrap this up, I think we could go back to rewinding your opening and kind of go through that, and it may answer some of these questions, because some of the answers that I'm going to have is stuff that you covered. So if we can kind of go back to the beginning and just start over with your questions, and then just do a simple, here's my presentation, here's my question, what do you think, Mark? And I think that would be a very fair way to cover this, because then again, I don't have to sit here with my terrible writing and try to write down everything that you asked me, and unfortunately, I'm one of those people that have a writing style that even I don't understand.
Be a good spy. But just since we're on this point, and nobody knows the answer to this question, I've asked Christians, I like to ask people this, and I'll ask you, do you think God knew, and I know you don't know, nobody does, do you think God knew Adam and Eve were going to sin, and that this would become a planet of death?
Absolutely.
According
to the Bible, he absolutely could not have known. And again, when you ask for an intelligent design, as an engineer, I have never, ever had somebody come to me and say, Mark, design me a machine that works perfect, but I want you to build in a flaw. I want you to build in something that is going to make this whole thing turn into, for lack of a better word, a shit show. I've never been asked to do that. And then I'd like to go, that's an honest answer. And then I'd like to follow this up with just one more statement from me before we go back to your opener. And that is, I swear to you, in all honesty, I am one of those people that do not want to exist forever. I don't not believe in a God because I don't want to. I can honestly tell you, the thoughts of living on for eternity in any state scares me to death, and it's not something that I crave. And there's a lot of people like me. And I don't know if that makes us so-called atheists or agnostics. And it's not because I don't want to worship a God. It's not because I want to sin. It has nothing to do with that. I promise you, in a very honest talk back and forth between the two of us, people like us are not out to sin, or we don't want to answer to God. We don't want this. We don't want that. We do not want that burden of even thinking for a second there's a possibility that we could live on forever. And I know for some people, they go, why wouldn't you want to go see your mother again? Why would you not? Both my mother and father are dead. Why would you not? And I will tell you, and it may sound cold to you, I don't know how it'll sound to the listening audience. It is not something I want. It's not something I crave. It's not something that in my mind I can even think for a second would be a good thing for me.
Well, I'll tell you a joke that points at me, and I joke around a lot. I say, wow, what if eternity is one big party? And I hate parties.
Me too.
I hope you see I love intellectual discussions. I would love to hear about the tiger paw at a party with you. but I don't want to hear about your drywall and you know what I mean, and your sore back. And it's just my thing. I go, so if I have a party, I want to play poker or Pictionary or something, and I go, what if eternity is like that?
Yeah.
But I just put trust that God knows what He's doing.
Yeah.
And this is a joke. I hope it's not whatever. This guy dies, and then he comes to life, and he's driving a car. And there's this nice old lady in the back just telling him endlessly as he's driving her about her grandchildren. And she goes on for about 3 hours. And then he sees St. Peter and goes, hey, what's going on? I thought I went to heaven. He said, no, you went to hell. She went to heaven. So I hope you found some humor in that. But Mark, I don't know. I just trust that it would be what God promises with joy. But here's a deep question for you, because you're a deep guy, if you don't mind. We both agree that God knew there would be sin, and that would mean death. So, Mark, my question to you is, what do you think, if that's true, what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life, Mark?
I honestly don't think there has to be a meaning, and that is my honest answer. I know that's been a question that has gone back to it's gone back forever. It's been the basis of comedy shows, the meaning of life. I don't, unfortunately, my honest answer is I don't think there has to be a meaning. I think it just happened, and that is where the God versus nature debate comes in, is that question of how did the universe become aware of itself? And that is a really, really good question. And everybody who has a brain that says, well, we know everything and there's no God, you're not being honest with yourself, because that is the real chin stroker. Why did the universe become aware of itself? And I hate to say it this way, but that is right now where God's fit really well. And then when we go back to your opener, there is the second spot that I think God's fit really well. And that was the creation. That was, where did the Big Bang come from?
I'm sorry to interrupt, guys. I'm sorry to interrupt. If we want to give Bill Morgan a response, and of course, if it's okay with the both of you, did you guys want to move on to some of, as Mark was saying, some of Bill's opening presentation? Because I know there's a lot there, and we definitely don't want to run out of time. I do want to say the audience is loving it. I'm loving it. Very respectful. I like this approach in debating, because I can kind of sit back and relax. But you guys are doing great. We're really enjoying this. So
please respond, and then let's unpack his opener, because it was a great opener, and it deserves it all deserves response from me, and not just me. Many people should try to answer his questions, because they're all very well laid out questions, and if we could answer them all, we could end this debate once and for all. We could do it tonight. Bill and Mark could finish this whole thing off. I don't think that's going to happen, but just his opener alone covers a lot of the really tough questions. So Bill, if you can kind of tidy up this talk, and then let's move back to your opener.
Okay, I asked if there is a meaning to life, and Mark has thought about it, obviously. And there's a law in science called the law of cause and effect, the law of causality. And as I look at Mark's camera, I see picture frames. That's a effect. Is there a cause for that? Yes, to hold those pictures. Mark's got a sweatshirt. That's an effect. Is there a cause for the sweatshirt? Yes, to keep Mark warm. Then I see Mark. He's an effect. Is there a cause for Mark? And you would say, no, Mark, there's a cause for picture frames and a sweatshirt, but not you?
Can I please answer that, and then we go to your opener?
Yeah.
The reason I'm wearing a sweatshirt is I'm so badly designed for the environment.
But God gave you the brain.
I'm terribly designed for this environment. Living in Canada, I don't even know if as a human being, if I could even survive up here. without a heated home or a, I know that's a cheap shot, Bill, but it's the
No.
truth. I'm wearing a sweatshirt because it's freezing up here, and I don't even know as a human being, a weak human being. I honestly feel that if we have evolved, humans have become very weak compared to our animal ancestors. But yeah, that's why I'm wearing a sweatshirt. Let's rewind your opener, and I think a lot.
Is there a cause for you? Everything in your room, there's a cause for it, but is there a cause for you, Mark?
But does there have to be? I know it's not an answer, and you've given me some non-answers too, Bill, to be honest with you. But does there have to be an answer for every question? And that is really what you're asking me. Is there a effect for every cause? Is there a reason for every question that we ask? And again, and I hate to say it because I hate the term God of the gaps, but just because we don't have answers for the causes or the effects, so in other words, we can't point the arrow either way, it does not mean that it will not one day be answered. I hope I didn't circumvent your question. I hope I understood it properly. But no, I don't believe that just because we can't, point to a cause or an effect, that doesn't mean that some things just happen and we don't have the answers for it yet.
Oh, this will be my final 15 seconds. I do believe for every effect there is a cause, that there is a cause for Mark. And this will be real quick. We could do a whole debate on that. I think the whole meaning of life is simply a determination of who spends eternity with God and who doesn't. Everything builds off of that. So that could be another debate, but I think that's the meaning of life. Who believes and who doesn't believe.
Where do the animals fall into that? Do they go to heaven too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Dogs go to heaven, but cats do not, because they don't have the fruits of the Spirit. No, I'm kidding, Mark. I believe there are absolutely animals in heaven, just like the Garden of Eden, because animals give us greater joy than people ever could. Amen?
Oh, for sure. You'll have to watch some of my videos. I did one yesterday explaining how well. Are you still there?
Me?
Oh, there we go. Somehow I just got rid of my screen. I don't need to see myself, but I do need to get to the point where I can see this debate. Oh, hold on. I think I see it. Is that us? Firefox? Yeah, that's us. Oh, there it comes back. Okay, sorry. Somehow. Oh, I will not touch the screen again. My wife is in the bath, and if I lose the screen, she is going to have to get out, dry off, stand. Okay, I will not touch my mouse or anything. Okay, let's go to your opener. I hope I answered what you just asked there, but let's go to your opener because honestly, it's going to cover some of the questions that we just will be kind of duplicating stuff. But you put so much work into that opener. Let's go through it. And if my wife can send me a quick little text if she's watching this, I would love to know if she's watching it right now.
You can't get her out of that hot bathtub, Mark.
No, I know. She's getting warm too. She was out all day.
Moved to California. I got the air conditioner on. It's so hot.
Oh, wow. Okay, is there any way to reopen your opener? Yeah, your slides. We'll kind of start at the beginning.
Yes. Would you like to see my list of 3 questions?
Yeah. I'd like to see every slide as it went by because they were nicely laid out and they asked the questions properly. And then I can give answers to every single one. Then you can give your response to them, and we can move on to the next one. And I think we can tidy this up because I've already thought about a lot of them.
I think that would be a good, engaging, profitable way to continue. I just want to check in with Praise. He might have to make sure that the screen is shared. We can have Bill start right from the beginning, and just kind of like Mark said, we'll go through each slide, each question, and just kind of keep it a free-flowing, organic dialogue as you guys have been doing. So thanks so much.
I don't see screen share as an option yet.
You've got infinite regression going on right now.
I love jokes that most people won't get, and I got that one. If half the people don't laugh, I like the joke. I'm trying to hit screen share. Well, let me just open it up and see if it... I doubt you guys can see that, right?
Yeah, we can see it. Creation versus evolution.
Oh,
How did we get here?
okay, because I didn't hit share. Okay, do you want me to skip that, or isn't it fine looking
Is
at?
that where we started? Yeah, okay. So again, I think we covered that. We don't know. I think it all started with I'm not asking how. Okay, we know is your best explanation. Okay, yes, matter and energy. So you started off with the first law of thermodynamics, which I agree states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. So where did it come from? So what we see right now as the universe that we live in is what started from a point of energy that was considered infinite energy and infinite mass. We never spoke of actual matter at this point. As a matter of fact, scientific method tells us, to our best explanation, that matter didn't coalesce till about 300 million years after the radiation started to cool. And then one of the best proven, scientific explanations out there is that energy can turn to matter, matter can turn to energy. They're interchangeable, and if they're not, then our entire understanding of science goes down the drain right now, because that is the basis of everything that we understand scientifically right now, is that mass and energy can go either way. It can be a greater than or a less than. They're equal. So to start off, we cannot say that energy was created. What we can say is that there was an infinite amount of energy at the beginning of what we call our universe. We cannot explain where that energy came from, but we know it exists. Did it pop out of the other side of a huge black hole in another universe? We don't know. So I think it's kind of a dishonest way to say that that beginning energy couldn't have existed, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. But we are allowed to say that the constituent energy was there and it was allowed to expand, and it makes sense. Where that energy came from before that, um, that's a whole nother question that is really hard to answer. It's as hard as answering as saying, are we the only universe? So like I said, our universe could have started from a infinite density of energy from another universe, in other words a black hole, where so much energy and matter got sucked into it that it popped out the other side and exploded into our universe. These are questions that we can't answer, but I really will not accept that the beginning of our universe began, that's the wrong word, started with the expansion of a new pile of energy. Does that make sense? Am I kind of making myself clear? It's a really hard thing to talk about when you talk about the singularity, but the singularity is basically a point where time has not moved forward. Energy has not expanded. It's infinitely small. I know people talk about it's a point on a page. That is a very dishonest way to look at it. It's much smaller than that. I would honestly go as far as saying that eventually we're going to consider the singularity as being a non-existent size. Down to the Planck length, whatever it turns out to be. I don't think it actually holds a size, because it's not a physical thing. It's an amount of energy. Um, it's an infinite amount of energy. I'm not going to keep talking myself into circles here. I would like, your input, and then let's go on to the next one. But that is my honest answer. I don't believe the first law of thermodynamics has anything to do with the amount of energy that this universe started with and expanded out of, and then cooled to the point where it made the matter that we see that exists in this universe.
Well, one of my biggest blessings might be also one of my biggest curses is, of all the people you debate online, I'll probably have the lowest IQ. But that can come in handy, Mark, because I listened closely to your answer and wrote notes, but I think you were tiptoeing around the tulips there. I simply asked for your best explanation for uh, the origin of energy and matter, and I think you maybe gave 3 or 4 possibilities, but which one is your best explanation, comma, and is it based on science or your philosophy? Do you think, first off, and I don't want to pin you to yes or no, but first off, do you think energy is eternal? Yes or no? Think, I said, not no.
Okay, so to say is energy eternal? Well, no, because we know that energy can go back and forth between matter and energy. So energy can still follow the first law of thermodynamics by expanding out and becoming just a huge amount of potential energy. In other words, we can use energy to shoot a ball upwards. When the ball gets to the very, very top, and I know this is way simpler, um, uh, physics, then I'm not trying to insult you, but at that point, all of that energy is gone and is now stored as potential. So all the kinetics turned into potential. So to say that the energy is going to go away, well, there's no such thing as just calling our universe a amount of energy. It's an amount of energy that can go back and forth between matter. And that's not a cop out of an answer, because eventually what will happen, if there is an end to this universe, is we will get to the point of heat death. So we will have all of the energy to the point where we have expanded everything out to the point where there's no more movement, there's no more anything. And then, that's where physics really starts to kick in. Do we get into a big rip? Do black holes start pulling themselves? We don't know. So I'm not sure how to answer, does the energy of the beginning of our universe fit our model? Because I would say yes, it does. And everything that we see right now is kind of pointing towards the direction that the way science explains it is right. Did I circumvent your question, or did I kind of answer it?
In my opinion, you did.
Okay.
Here, let me rephrase the question, Your Honor. No, I'm just kidding. I thought when I was taking notes that you said at the origin there was nothing but energy, so that's why I changed the question. But the question on the screen is what you went back to, and I'm happy to go back to the question on the screen. How do you think matter and energy originated? What's your best explanation, Mark?
Well, matter and energy is interchangeable, so let's just for now, because we think it was energy, let's call it energy, because again, the scientific understanding is we went about 300 million years with only energy, with only radiation. So I'm going to say to you that is where we have no answer. And everybody out there always calls it the God of the gaps, but that is the one that we cannot answer, is where did that first amount of energy come from that once laid out across this universe has become the matter and energy that we see today. So my answer to you is no, we don't have an answer as to where the first ingredient came from. I shouldn't say we. I don't have the answer as to where that first infinite point of energy came from.
Okay, but you see the lengths I went to, because again, I've talked to many, many, many atheists. I'll say, how do you think matter and energy originated? They say, I don't know. I'm not asking if you knew. What is your best scientific explanation, Mark? Do you believe it's eternal, or it had a natural origin from the... Okay.
Yes. Okay. I see what you're asking now. Yes, I do. I believe the amount of energy that is in our universe, one way or the other, whether it switches between energy or matter, is eternal, and it always will exist in one state or another, whether that state is heat death and maximum potential, or whether it all collapses back together to become another infinitely dense point of energy to start this whole thing over again. Yes, that is my belief that it is eternal.
Okay. If it is eternal, why haven't we suffered a heat death already? Because, not to lose the audience, but real quickly, over time, available energy, like food, becomes unavailable energy, like heat. Gasoline becomes heat. So if the universe is eternal, the available energy should have gave us a heat death by now, right, Mark?
Well, no, because that's kind of to me like saying, why is a bullet still on its trajectory, not just falling out of the air? It needs to play out. So what you've got is you've got an expansion that is still expanding. You've got a bullet that is still working its way along until the point where it either runs out of energy or runs into something and then transfers its energy into something else. So unless I'm misunderstanding the question, I'm not sure why we would expect, for lack of a better analogy, why we would expect the bullet to just all of a sudden stop and create heat death. Why would we expect that when we still see the cosmic radiation? We still see the universe cooling. We still see everything expanding. As a matter of fact, we see it expanding at an expanding rate. We see it going faster and faster. So I guess, I hate answering questions with or I hate answering with questions, but why would we expect that it would all stop at a certain point, especially within our lifetime of, if we're going to go biblical here, of 6,000 years? Why would we expect that right now within this 6,000 years we would expect to see it stop?
Well, about 3 minutes and 45 seconds ago, you said there would be a heat death over time, meaning there'd be no available energy and the universe would just become completely static. And I agree with you that over time we would have that heat death, because would you agree matter and energy are functions of time?
Yes, but there is no such thing as heat death, because what happens is you take the amount of heat that we have and you spread it out evenly over the entire universe. So now what you've done is you've exchanged energy into matter, and not only have you exchanged energy into matter, but then you have used that energy to push everything apart to the point that it is now. So it has the potential of coming back together with the same amount of energy that was put into it to push it apart. Now, whether or not there is enough gravitational pull between these things to pull them back together, that's the $1,000,000 question. And everything is pointing towards no, there's not going to be. That we are eventually going to get to the point where everything's so far apart that there is, and I do have troubles believing it, because we're finding so many of these massive black holes. I can't help but think that in one way or the other, they're going to, I don't mean to write a love story here, but I think they're going to find each other again, one way or the other. And again, I hope I didn't circumvent your question, but that is honestly what I believe, is that we're kind of playing fast and loose with the wording of this here. And I don't think we would expect anything other than what we are seeing, unless you can convince me and the audience of that. Am I missing something? Would we expect the bullet? Would we expect the bullet just to fall out of the air?
Not if it's subjected to gravity. But I could never convince anybody of anything. All I can do is present a case, and people have to decide if I'm full of it or if it makes sense. Okay? So I would love to convince you, but I can't. I can just present a case. But on this question, so you would say matter and energy is, it didn't have an origin, it's eternal, correct?
Yeah, it's eternal. That's my belief. I don't want to say it's our belief. I really
Right.
do think, I really do believe that. I think it's eternal. I think it's been around for an infinite amount of, and this is the tough part, because time never existed before the Big Bang, before the singularity. So I almost made a mistake there that I hope you would have caught. But I almost said to you, yes, energy has been around forever or for all time. But that's where
Well,
you're
I thought that
really, now you got to put time into the equation. Time never existed before the Big Bang. And will time exist when we get to the point of heat death? No, because you take away all energy, you take away all movement of molecules, everything breaks down. As you take all the energy out of a molecule, and it ceased to exist. It will, according to physics, it will cease to exist. You cannot have a atom that has no energy, that has no orbitals. It cannot exist. So where does this all lead? It's something way beyond my pay grade. I'll tell you that for sure.
Sure, sure.
The more I go down your question, the more I keep digging myself into a hole, to be honest with you.
No, you're a good man. And it's just like I said, two buddies just talking. So you say before the Big Bang, there was matter and energy, but it was independent of time.
There you go. That's what I was just going to say to you. Is I had hoped that you were going to stop that question before you said the word time, but you didn't. You didn't give me that. So I was going to say to you, but yes, time never existed. So eternity never existed, if that kind of makes sense. How can you have time before you have the expansion of time and energy?
Okay.
And I honestly don't think either of us can answer this, because, no offense, I'm not saying you're not one of the greatest minds of all time. The greatest minds of all time have worked on this. And, and laymen like myself, we try to think about this, and then we just keep bouncing our head against the same wall. But there was no time, but there was energy. Was it eternal? And then we think it all through, and we think that we have this elegant answer, and we're going to go be Einsteins. They're going to write stories about us, and then we bang right up against the wall. But there was no time, and that's where it's really tough to think these things through. It's hard as a human being to understand an existence without time.
Absolutely. And to use a metaphor, perhaps, if you climb that mountain of knowledge, I think at the top you're going to see Genesis that teaches there was an origin of matter and energy, and that it was supernatural. That can't be proven, but the natural explanation can be falsified. You follow me with what we know about thermodynamics? Falsifying it doesn't prove it, but it makes it the best explanation.
Yeah, I would honestly disagree there. I don't think it can be falsified. That's the problem. And that is because to say something that is infinite when a scale of time has not even been started, is that an honest thing to say? And I think we can beat this dead horse forever, and it'll never stand up. But I think on this one, we got to kind of just agree to disagree. I don't think you'll ever convince me that the first law of thermodynamics has anything to do with the singularity. And I don't think it has anything to do in all my thinking that is very hard for me to lay out. Where I live right now, it's 11 o'clock at night, which is fine. I can go forever. But it's not something I can, just sit there and off the top of my head try to put into words that people would find elegant enough to explain. How do you start to think about an infinitely dense point of energy, and an infinite amount of time when there is no time? So, if you want to just answer that quick, and then we can move on to your next question. I love this way of going back and forth. And I really hope that, again, that we don't leave me and you so much with anything more than you'll make me think about this. I will go back and replay this in my head, but I really hope the listening audience also thinks about both of our sides and starts investigating this. Like I say, we live in the information era. No one should ask anything. No one should ever walk up.
Well,
I wonder about this. It is on your phone. Instead of sending someone a text, Google it. We are in the information era. You can know anything you want to know.
right. And just as a quick summary, I appreciate your honesty. And you did mention the heat death. And just as you're driving in your car, turn off the radio and ask, well, if it's infinite, why haven't we experienced that heat death? But like you said, we may have beaten this to death and we've made our points. And one of my goals is just to present a case. I can't convince you of anything.
Right.
But if you really dig into it, it's almost going to be irresistible to hold on to the alternate. And that's what I hope happens.
Yeah. And some, Bill, I'll think about that. But like I said, to me, it would be like taking a snapshot of a bullet in mid-flight and then trying to estimate at what point of its lifetime of expelling this energy that bullet is at. And I don't know if we can know that by taking a snapshot. We can try to project into the future our best guesses. And, providing we can see the muzzle of the gun, like we think we can see the point of the Big Bang, or we get back really close to it. I think from what I understand, we get back to basically Planck time of understanding and seeing the Big Bang. Oh my God, I think I probably just opened up a whole new can of worms. But in my analogy, I think we can see the muzzle of the gun, and that's what makes a lot of what we understand in physics so compelling, is that we are able to look at where we're at right now. We can look back to where we think we started from, the singularity, and we can make a lot of assumptions, and they are assumptions.
Okay, let's talk about your bullet. If we had a toolbox, and I heard how you love cars, if we had a toolbox, our tools are the laws of thermodynamics. The tools could tell us, we don't know how long that bullet's been in the air, but we could use the tools of physics and thermodynamics to say it's not going to be in the air for infinity. Follow me? Based on what we know.
Right. But as I was
I just want to jump in real quick, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if either like Mark wants to have the last word on this specific question, or Bill, however you guys want to work that out, maybe we'll move on. If it's okay with you guys, maybe move on to the next.
Let's move on. What do you think, Mark?
Well, Mark's going to vote that Mark gets the last word, because that just works out perfect for me.
But
so in my analogy, and then if he continues on with an answer, I guess I lost. In my analogy of the bullet, my argument would be that we do see the muzzle. We do see the end of the barrel. And that is what makes things a little bit different than your analogy. In looking back in the universe, we do believe that we can see back to the Big Bang. And I hate being the last one that gets to make a comment, but I would love to talk to Bill again, and we could beat this. We could take one subject and talk about it all night, I can tell. But yeah, if he can move on to the next one.
I'll just briefly say energy is not eternal according to Bill and thermodynamics.
Okay,
next one. This one's real easy. How did life originate? I'm not asking if you know. What's your best explanation?
My best explanation doesn't exist. So what I am doing here is I'm taking other people's research as being true. And I'll be honest with you, I've never looked into it. I've never questioned it. Biology is not my thing. But when I look at the explanation of, basically clay making a very good outer capsule for RNA and RNA to get together, and I listen to these YouTube discussions. I listen to people like Professor Dave. I really like his style of debating, and he does a lot of question and answer type stuff. And yeah, it's we got to believe that these RNA strands came together. I know we can talk, and I believe it was Standing for Truth and myself. We had a debate, and we got a lot into chance. You know, what are the chances of this happening? They're 1 to the power of 157 or whatever. You know, and I understand these powers, and I understand how when you get into whether or not something biological could ever form the way it did at the beginning, where it made these single-celled organisms. I understand that mathematically they're impossible. But what I would like to add to that, and again, I hope I'm answering your question, is you have a enormous Earth for this to happen to on. So I don't want people to think, you know, or be misled into thinking that life had to start in this one little spot on this one little piece of Earth. We have the entire Earth, and we have found that if we dig down in the Earth, I don't know, I think we're down to almost 4 miles. It's an incredible distance. We're still finding life. So we have found that very simple microbes or microbial life seems to exist everywhere on this earth. So, you know, my answer to you would be this is far out of anything. You know, when you start getting into biology, there's no winging it. You really, you know, you'd better taken some serious years of education and understanding how everything works, how RNA became DNA, how you know, you've got so much in DNA. There's just so much stuff that you need to know that I don't know if I could give an honest answer there that I believe, but except my honest answer is I have to believe what I'm told and what I'm taught when it comes to biological life forms, if that makes sense to you.
So basically, your best explanation was life came from clay because
No,
someone told you it came from clay.
no. When they talk about where RNA comes from, they talk about you know, RNA strands getting together and then clay making this lipid layer around the outside of it, which formed the first primitive cell.
Hmm.
When I look at that, I really do, and I'm going to agree with you on this. There is a lot of projection put into that. There's a lot. Like I've watched several shows on where they believe, you know, biogenesis come from. You know, where was the very first life form? Where did it come from? And again, that is some, in my opinion, from everything that I hear, it's some really shaky science.
Amen.
We're really stretching. Would you agree with that, Bill? Like if you
Oh,
look at
Mark.
it's very shaky. It's hard to understand. I'll watch one channel and it'll claim truth here, and then I'll listen to another one and I'll go, wow, that's not really the way I heard it over here.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very shaky, and it really is the big question. For me, the singularity isn't that hard to understand. I can almost wrap my head around it, but not quite. But the beginning of life, like we talked about at the beginning, why would the universe even want to become alive? And I hate to use the word want because that implies a brain. But why would simple chemicals want to become life? That is to me the really big question. That is the one that's the showstopper, Bill. It really is. Why would it even want to happen?
Well, I don't think inert matter has thought and desires and goals to become living. But my one request, and you don't have to follow my request, is keep asking atheists, hey, bro, how do we think life originated? But put on your BS detector, Mark, And just if you keep doing that, I think the fallacy that it came from non-life is going to become apparent to you, that these people are starting with the premise life could not have a supernatural origin. Please fund me and I'll keep looking for it. And there are many, many different opinions on how life originated. But as you talked about real quickly, I have slides. The odds of one protein happening by chance is 10 to the 600th power. You would win California Super Lottery 77 times in a row before that would happen. So here's my question though. One protein, 10 to the 600th power. I'm not asking people how proteins arrange themselves by chance. I asked them how life originated. And Mark, a protein is not a living thing. RNA is not living. DNA is. It's the system that's living. You see, Mark? These guys are playing in mud puddles trying to figure out how amino acids form. Amino acids are not life. A dead dog is not living, you see? So put your BS detector on, Mark. Question me. Question Standing for Truth. Question the atheists. And I think you're going to leave shaking your head saying, they got nothing, to use technical terms. Life only comes from life.
I agree with you to a certain extent. So here's the thing. As we look back towards the Big Bang, and believe me, I'm not looking to go back to the first question where we'll get nowhere. We do have a pretty clear path back, in my opinion. We don't have to argue that. But when it comes to life, here's the thing. When we dig through the fossil layer, whether you believe in time over geology or not, the fossil layer, as you move deeper and not necessarily deeper, things can flip, things can do this. As we look into what we believe is looking back in time, through the fossil layer, through genetics, we do see that life, boy, I know you're going to disagree with me on this one. The scientific understanding is that we do see life working its way back to a simple single cell organism that, boy, I don't know at what point. I think it was about 1.5 billion years after what we think the Earth had cooled and coalesced, and we had oceans. And then we went forever with this single-celled organism, whatever it was, whether it was just plankton. I don't know. I don't look into this stuff because it really doesn't interest me a whole lot. But I know we went forever. And from what I understand, it was about 500 million years ago that single-celled organism started to really explode. So in other words, it made enough oxygen that it allowed the life that exists today, that exists off oxygen, to start to evolve. But what I'm getting at is we do have a snapshot back to the beginning when we look at the fossil layer. Now, whether you want to argue whether or not the fossil layer is real, whether it can be proven, whether it only exists in textbooks or not, again, biology is not my strong point, but from what I understand, there's quite a bit of evidence that as you look back in time, life becomes simpler and simpler, which again is what we would expect from the models that we have today. In other words, if we were to look back and it started with something more complicated than man and has worked its way up to man, that would be backwards to what we see in the fossil layer. Does that kind of make sense?
I heard every word you said, and I guess we're tabling the origin of life. And do you promise to keep asking the atheists to give you an answer?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't even have to ask them because honest scientists will continually be working towards finding these answers. And I know that it seems like we're a really modern, fully advanced society, but you go back 150, 200 years ago, we were burning witches, at the stake. So we haven't been working on this that long. And I'm 52 years old. I hope a lot of this stuff gets answered in my lifetime, and it won't be by me. I'll be honest. Biology is just not my thing. But I know some of the questions coming up because I can you
Okay.
give us 15 minutes?
Okay. What do you think about these lines? That God makes systems, Mark? As an engineer, I thought you'd like that.
Does it make systems? Well, it's like anything, you even look back to our earlier electronics, they've gotten nothing but more and more complicated, and they are man-made systems. So yes, when we started out, we were using vacuum tubes. We would cover an electronic board with these vacuum tubes, and it would look, someone looks at an old TV that they go to a dump and dig up, they're going to look at it and go, wow, is that ever complicated? That looks really impressive. As a layman looking at it, it looks really impressive. What they don't realize is every single one of those vacuum tubes is replaced by a simple transistor. And now we can look at a computer chip and they have trillions of those transistors on it. So what we can look at with our human mind and think we understand, I think we might be misled by just the way we interpret what we're seeing, if that kind of makes sense to you.
I think you're missing my point. You're a car expert, and I've read for your car to start and get you from point A to point B, 10,000 items have to work. If one item does not work, Mark's not going to the store. So for a system to work, you often need everything, even in those old television sets. So my point is, evolution cannot make a system where all these components interact in order to keep a living thing alive. Like, you can't wait around for a digestive system to evolve in a dog, or a stomach, or even saliva. The dog would be dead. All these systems need to work from day one.
Understood.
Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, understood, Bill. And I know they want to push us forward on this, and I'm good with that. So unfortunately, I'm going to ask that I get the final word on this again and just let the audience think about it. But again, I look at the Genesis story, and all of a sudden you've got a huge change. So you've got you've got a man that has been made by God that could not die. All the animal kingdom could not die. So as you are saying there, looking back to the beginning of these systems that couldn't exist without another system, granted, let's leave it at that. But I say to you, if you look at the biblical story of there was no death before sin, somewhere we should see in the fossil record or an understanding through genetics that there was a huge reset. Man was designed, animals were designed this way, there was sin, all of a sudden we got a change. And I've heard many creationists say that there were millions and millions of animals on the earth at the time that Adam, was made as man. So again, not a gotcha moment for Bill. I just kind of leave that up to the audience to think, both of our sides, back and forth on that. And if we can move to the next point, that'd be great, because I've asked for 15, 20
just
minutes.
for a little time. Mark's had a lot of time.
Yeah.
Just real quickly.
Yeah.
Mark probably knows this. Trilobites have the most complex compound eye ever seen. Trilobites show up instantly in the Cambrian layer with no ancestors. So I think the fossil record shows complexity in the supposed ancient layers, which confirms the idea of design. Just like those dog teeth. Beautiful
Right.
design. Wouldn't you tend to think, Mark, those teeth are a design?
Yeah. No, I don't want to answer a question with a question, but what I will say to you is I will grant you that the trilobite eye was one of the most complicated eyes that ever existed. It's not something that I know, and I'm not going to make a statement. That is something I will look into. I have never heard that before, and I'm not sure how they could look back in the fossil record and look at a block of limestone and make that assumption. So we'll leave it at that, and let's move on, because I've asked for 15 to 20 minutes to get through your opener, and I think we're on your second slide, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to pick it up a bit.
Can you see that dog mouth?
No, I see nothing yet.
Oh, I'm not.
Bill, I think you might have to click screen share again, and Praise will make sure that.
There it is. I see stop screen.
What I'll do, if you guys want to make it a 15-minute speed round,
Okay.
I'll set the timer for 15 minutes. You guys do as you will with it. You can consider it a speed round or whatever you want, and then we'll jump into. We got some good questions. You guys brought the numbers today, so I think it's going to be a good Q&A as well. So thanks for keeping it fun, guys.
I agree.
Show my teeth, my dog teeth. Okay. Well, I thought you were on PowerPoint. I didn't know I was on camera all that time, but I didn't have anything to hide.
You're back to infinite regression.
Yeah, I don't know how to screen share. It doesn't say share screen on the bottom.
But I do remember the teeth of the dog, and the one thing that popped into my head while you're figuring this out, so we don't burn through our 15 minutes, is we look at an embryo of a chicken and we see teeth. We see the development of teeth, and then we see it absorbed into the embryo of that chicken. So, teeth to me, yes, they're amazing. We've had 500 million years for animals to either be able to exist with the teeth that they have or not exist with the teeth that they have. And if
Can you see that?
there it is. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Look at those beautiful teeth. Those are not descended from hen's teeth.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, and we've never said that a dog has come from dinosaurs where hens would come from. But what I can say to you is I also look at those teeth, and I don't mean this to be a cheap shot, but I do not see anything in that picture that could live for eternity without sin. I don't know how that simple design of continually chewing, and I don't even know what the teeth were designed to chew without original sin, because there was nothing that it could kill. Now, I've heard the argument before that we shouldn't look at plant tissue as life. It is what it is. I think we could argue this back and forth forever, but I don't even know what those teeth exist for. If we are going to,
let me cut in. I'm sorry, Mark.
Yeah,
you're commenting a little bit. It seems from this discussion you have an enormous problem with God creating animals and then having death enter the world.
I do. I really do.
I understand. But I'm focusing on, wow, look at Adam and Eve. They had eyes, livers, lungs, kidneys, brains, fingernails, toes. You see, it's like we're looking in different directions.
Yeah.
I think
Bill, what I see, what I see is a pile of gelatinous garbage that just by design couldn't live on forever. I would never take a gelatin or a cartilage-based joint and design it as an engineer and walk up to my customer and say, hey, you know something, this thing's going to live, this is going to be capable of living on for eternity. And that is my big thing, is that in the world view of the Bible, there had to be a reset where God said, okay, you know something, I built Adam. Boy, you should see this thing. It's a machine. Everything's made out of titanium, ceramic bearings. This was a beautiful being. But then all of a sudden, there was sin, and look at man today. I'm 52 years old, and I'll be honest with you, my teeth are full of silver. I don't know. Can a man live much past 100? And I know the argument is always, well, because of sin, where the system is breaking down. I just honestly, I don't see anything in that mouth that would prove to me that there was ever an organism built.
So, Mark,
Well,
I understand.
yeah,
So you would have no problem in believing God is the creator and designer if everything went great and we were happy all the time. You
not
believe
happy.
that?
I don't think happy. I think happy is something that we can't even put into this, because then you're getting into
Well,
mental thoughts. How do we think?
but you're getting my point.
But
If things
yeah,
went the way you wanted,
I
you would
don't
believe in
see.
God.
Yeah, I don't see anything in biology that matches again what I read in the Bible. And you've got some really good stuff coming up in your PowerPoint, and we've probably got 10 minutes left. Man, I hate doing this to you, but let's move on to some of these, and maybe Standing could reschedule us, and we could take each of these points one on at a time, and then maybe I could do a presentation that we take on one at a time. But if we could leave it at that and move on to your next
But
one.
you made an important point. You said the Bible gives no indication. The Bible teaches a supernatural origin of matter, energy, and life, which is what conforms with the laws of science that we know. Okay? So to say the Bible doesn't talk about it, it talks about the origins, and it was supernatural. But we can move on.
Okay.
Let's see. You really think that happened by chance, Mark?
Well, what you're looking at there is not much more. Oh boy, I'm going to get hit hard on this. But even a single-celled organism, anything that is considered life, has every system that is needed to become life. So I'm not going to, because we're going to eat up time, I'm not going to go over the definition of life, but even a simple bacteria is so complicated. I know
Amen,
it's
brother.
impressive to look at a dog, but let's just, boy, I hate to do this to the people that, and please don't have a side here. I'm not asking for a side, but let's just say the people that kind of fall in line with me. You don't even have to show a dog. Man, show a bacteria. That thing is incredibly complicated, and we have troubles explaining that.
So why aren't you a creationist?
Well, let's continue on here. We got 10 minutes.
Okay. And this dog is made up of hundreds of different cells, all in the right place. The liver is no more important than the stomach. It's a system that had to be instantly created and installed.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. I agree there. And if it didn't get all the minerals that it needs through the digestion of meat and other life, everything that you're pointing at there doesn't even need to exist. It doesn't even need to have lungs if God created life that could not die. And I think that is the point that maybe me and you should debate, is that point in my worldview where I see God all of a sudden saying, okay, we now have death. Was that a complete redesign of animals? Because, if you take the Bible as a literal reading, you could take a dog and put it underwater for 3 days and it would not come out dead. There's no such thing as death. And I know this seems like a really cheap thing to bring up with such little time left. I think we could talk about this all night, but I guess that's where I really have the trouble, is where's that transition where any of this stuff is even needed?
well, I think God, and it's my opinion, and people can get mad at me, but I'm a loner, so that's okay. I'm married with a lot of kids. I don't think God said, "Oh, they ate of the tree; they're going to die now." I think
Yeah,
God knew it, and
yeah,
He created the dog to have those fangs and
yeah.
to be able to digest meat, so that this life was determining who spends eternity with God or who perishes.
Right, right. I
John 3.
think I think I understand your view is that God is all knowing, and I've argued this before, and people have argued the other side. Well, God didn't know there was going to be sin. And then, obviously the atheist or the agnostic's answer to that is, aha, how can God be all knowing? How can he be omnipotent if he, you know what I'm saying?
I sure
And
do.
that's where you don't go. You have a position that can knock kind of people off of their comfort zone by saying, hey, God knew right from the beginning. He designed this. He knew it was going to happen, and he built in all these systems to take over once he knew that there was going to be original sin. And I accept that, so that we can move on to your next slide. And I accept it as a a proper answer. I don't look at it as a cop out. I honestly believe you believe that.
Well, if people have the premise of starting with what the whole purpose is, then things fall in line. That God's purpose is to separate the wheat
Right.
from the tares. I know you've
Yeah.
read that in your
Yeah.
Bible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could anything be so complex, Mark, where you'd throw up your hands and say, there's a designer? I'm not saying it's the God of the Bible, but there's got to be a designer. What's the most complicated thing in a lion? Or what's something that's amazingly complex in a lion, Mark?
To be honest with you, the thing about life that really sometimes throws me aback, that I just sit there in amazement, where I honestly stare at my animals, is the instinct that they have. It's no one system. It's no one ability. I don't look at their teeth with amazement. I don't look at their strength with amazement. I don't look at their beauty with amazement. I look at this instinct that they have. And if you're the type of person that can honestly read the emotions of an animal, and I know this is going to sound so corny to people, because unless you do this, and you got to remember, I'm 52 years old. I've been doing this for 30 some odd years. This goes back to when I was a child with my parents with animals. I have gotten to the point where I can honestly almost see what a lion or a tiger is thinking before it does it. And I'll point to them and I'll say, don't even think about it. Stop it. It is that to me. And that is funny, because it is something that we can't put our finger on. When we look at the instinct, when we look at that, and it's in a human too. It's that thing we were talking about at the beginning, is what makes us us. What this complicated thought pattern, and it goes right back to the way the way we opened this with this self-preservation. It's the same in animals. You see so much of this. I don't even know. I don't know what to call it except for instinct. I don't
Where
have
do you
a
think it
better
comes
word
from?
for it.
What's your best guess?
Preservation. I really do. I know the listening audience out there is not, for the most part, going to know what I'm talking about. But if you spent your life with animals, and I don't want to sound like that crazy cat lady who sits at home with her 40, house cats and pets them all day, but it is so weird that animals have this communicative ability, that if you spend enough time with them, you know exactly what they're going to do. Go look at my last, I'm not trying to do a plug, but go look at my last YouTube video. I think it's episode 4, where I introduce some baby lions to a tiger. And throughout the video, I'm saying, okay, this is what they're going to do. They're going to walk over to me. I know it's going to seem like, wow, how did he know that? But it was as clear to me as if they had spoken to me and said, hey, Mark, I'm going to walk over to you.
I think every pet owner would agree with you.
Yeah.
How does a beaver know how to build a dam?
I don't know, but
many times the parents don't teach them. I've studied beavers.
Yeah, I agree. And then you look at any baby that falls out of its mother and has this ability to stand up. It has this ability to seek out the nipple. It has this ability to walk. It's incredible, Bill. It's honestly incredible. And any of these points that you're bringing up, because they're so strong, we could spend another 4 hours on every single point you bring up because they're very strong. You have searched out the questions that we all struggle with, and I know you haven't done it as a I got you style of debate. I know exactly what you're doing. You're doing what I'm doing. You're struggling with these things, and I do too. I really do. But I
Uh,
can sit down with a tiger or a lion, and I honestly, and I know people out there are going to think I'm a little wacky. Oh my God, I know exactly what they're going to do. Go to my videos. I will post a video tomorrow, and I will tell you exactly what those guys are going to do. And it's almost like they spoke to me in English. And it's just because I spent so much time with them.
well, I have a creation ministry out here, and we meet once a month, and I call it Creation Light because all the lessons a fifth grader could understand. And I just talked about how does a hummingbird know how to build a nest, a spider build a web, a beaver a dam. And about a month ago, my wife and I were watching whales from the coast, and there were all these older people that were expert whale watchers. This is kind of a sad story. He was explaining how the whales migrate south to give birth in the warmer water because they don't have blubber yet. And I said, how do they know to go south? And he goes, well, nobody's really sure. So I said, I think God created that whale with more instinct and information and ability than we give credit for. And the guy says, oh, that's what I believe too. So, Mark, isn't it a tragedy that so many creationists are so scared and timid to just say, I believe there's a God who gave instinct to beavers to build a dam, spiders to build a web. You and I could not build a nest with our mouths, but a hummingbird can. Isn't that a shame?
All I can say to you, Bill, is that was very insightful. I'm not trying to suck up to you in any way. All I can say to you is, yes, you look at things, and man, it is so incredible, and we have to just be really honest with ourselves and say we don't know. There's stuff out there that is just amazing.
Yeah, well, I hope you tap into the greatness of God because I was just daydreaming today, Mark, that when you're out with your lions, that you just see the paw and you just say, how great thou art. You see the fur. Here's one of my favorite things, and I'm not setting you up. Name one piece of fur on one of your lions, like on its shoulder, in its paw, in its ear, just for kicks. Name one hair, like on the part of the body.
I'm not sure what you mean. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Bill.
If you were to ask me, I'd say, okay, the one hair inside my dog's ear. Okay, I'm a dog guy.
Okay.
So, Mark, I propose to you that God is so big, He designed every single hair on
I see what you're saying.
Every single one of your. Wait, let me finish, please.
Yeah.
He designed every single hair on every single one of your cats. He made the hair for the inside of your cat's ears perfect for the location. I've never met your cats, but I would predict they're pointed in a direction to keep out the water.
Right.
They're short enough for the cat to hear. The cat has hair on its back that's thick, strong, that can shed water, keep the cat warm. So let's say your cat's got 50 billion hairs. God is so big, Mark, He wrote DNA programming for every single hair on your beloved cat. There's not one hair on your cat.
All right, guys, we gotta wrap this up now because we got like super chats, questions. So
Okay, so
if I can ask you guys, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, live on reschedule us because we got a lot to do here. So if possible, reschedule us.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea because it's been such a good back and forth discussion. I mean, it's been over 2 hours and it's flown by. We've had over 60 people in the live chat. Lots of good questions, lots of good feedback, lots of good all around. Awesome.
Yeah, and I really enjoy Bill's questioning. I really do, and I would like the opportunity to answer them and give him the answers that they deserve. I as best as I can. I can't claim that I can give all answers, But let's make these guys some money here, Bill. Let's give them.
Amen.
Hey, we got to put our kids through college here.
Yeah.
But I want to say both to Mark, and obviously to Bill, you guys are always welcome. Anytime that, Mark's been here or Bill has been here, it's always been respectful and a memorable discussion. So thanks so much. I'll ask you guys, did you want to take like maybe 2 minutes each just to wrap everything up, give your thoughts as to how you believe the discussion went, kind of in the form of it like a concluding statement, or do you want to just jump right into questions? Totally up to you guys.
Oh my God, Standing. I was hoping you were going to say, do you and Bill want to take 2 minutes to go grab a quick drink and take a pee? But okay. I'll let Bill go first, and I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go pee. I know you've been all watching me drink my milk here, which I always have before bed because I'm not a perfect design. And if I don't drink milk before I go to bed, I get terrible indigestion. But I've had 2 glasses, so I'm going to listen to Bill. I got my computer on full.
Okay.
And then I agree. 2 minutes each just to kind of wrap things up. And I don't want to ask questions if we can, Bill, not turn this into questions, but just kind of a quick review on, how we think the talk went and, what we feel was answered. And I have no problems with you, saying what you feel I circumvented or anything like that. And we'll go from there.
And Mark, I've been in a lot of debates. This is usually around the time where I got to sneak away to go to the washroom too.
Yeah, exactly.
So I totally understand.
On the screen live. I can't hide what I'm doing, but I'm listening, Bill.
Okay. Well, I prepared a quick closing. Can you guys see that? My screen?
Yeah.
Oh, you can? Okay, great. All right, I'm going to go real fast. I prepared for 6. I'll do 2. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? You need 2 chickens. You need a male and female. If you're an atheist, please consider how in the world males and females evolved by chance. The best answer is in the teaching, not the story, the teaching of the Garden of Eden, that God made males and females. Because of time, I'll go faster. Why do I believe a designer exists? Design. This is a maple leaf. Okay, this is, not to pick on it. It's a leaf, but it's also a solar panel that can produce oxygen. Solar panels are always the result of design, not chance, and leaves are the best solar panels around. Right there, millions of solar panels, millions of designs. God's hand was on every leaf you see in that picture. Leaves are better than man's solar panels. When leaves fall, they become nutrition. When solar panels fall apart, they become a hazardous waste, which is going to be a nightmare in the coming future. So God's solar panels are better. Leaves can repair themselves. Solar panels can't. Just look at design with an open mind and you'll know there's a creator. And there's photosynthesis producing oxygen. We won't get into that right now. But our solar panels can't produce oxygen, but God's can. I believe both of these are designs, the leaf and the solar panel. The atheist would have to say, oh, well, the solar panel is, but not the leaf. So why is the theory of evolution not scientific? It hasn't been observed. Nobody has seen an ape man. Nobody has seen a half bird, half lizard. It's all stories and drawings. There's no living evidence, no fossil evidence. That's genetics, that's biochemistry. Bees make bees. Bees are not related to bacteria. Okay, I'll make this my final point. There once was a man in a small town in Indiana convinced he was dead. And the whole town tried to convince him, no, 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 you are not dead. He goes, yes, I'm dead. So they got together, they collected all their money, and they got the world's smartest man from Harvard to come out to convince him he wasn't dead. So the guy flies out to Indiana. He says to the man, are you dead? And he goes, yes, I'm dead. He said, do dead people bleed? And the man said, no, dead people don't bleed. So the Harvard PhD got out a pin, pricked the man's finger, and started to bleed. And the man says, I was wrong. Dead people do bleed. The point being is some people are completely driven by their philosophy. I think we should be driven by a search for the evidence. And I think the evidence concludes matter and energy is neither created nor destroyed. It didn't poof from nothing by natural means. Matter and energy is not eternal, the second law. It had to have had a supernatural beginning. Life does not come from non-life. That's a law of science. It's not philosophy. And I believe design is an overwhelming argument. So all I can do is try to present a case, hope people are open-minded, hope they dig into it, and reach their conclusions based on science and not their predisposed philosophy. And thank you very much for letting me be a part of this debate.
No problem. We appreciate that concluding statement there, Bill. Mark, take as much time as you need.
Yeah, very very nice, Bill. You're a great guy to talk to, man. You're just one of those people that I'd love to sit down with in person, and you'd be able to have all your little visual aids right in front of you, and we could see each other's hand movements, and I can't imagine the discussion that we could have back and forth. So again, I hate going second because all my answers just feel so cheap because you don't get to respond to them. But you had mentioned how our solar panels cannot produce oxygen. You know where I'm going with this. Yeah, we could put two probes into water and we could make hydrogen and oxygen with our solar panels. So yes, we could. Our solar panels produce electricity. We can turn electricity easily into hydrogen and oxygen. Is a leaf incredible? Let's just circle right back around and let me agree with Bill. Absolutely amazing what a leaf can do, all the way from the chloroform. Well, who needs to go there again? I'm not a biology person. I know enough of it to be dangerous, and enough to look at nature and life in absolute awe, the same as Bill does. And to be honest with you, anyone who takes the time to look at life and nature, you cannot stand back in absolute awe of what you see, and that is the truth. I don't care if you're the staunchest of atheists. If you can't look back at nature, everything you see in nature, how complex it is, how nature relies on nature to exist, um, I don't know. You should really slow down and take a look at nature. The more you look at it, the more you will be left with questions you cannot answer. There's no doubt about it. I also noticed that he brought up fleas. Fleas are a parasite, Bill, and we didn't get into parasites, but parasites are a form of life. Neither of us got into coronavirus tonight, and we're not going to. How's that for a dead end conversation starter? But fleas are a parasite. Um, there's so many parasites on this earth. I'm not sure how they fit in again to to the creation story, where God created all life, everything that exists today. That would also be assuming, um, and it feels cheap bringing this up again, that he also created all of these parasites. And I know we don't consider viruses to be a complete life, but basically, and we didn't even touch on Noah's Ark, um, because Bill didn't bring it up. I don't know if that's something he believes in or not. And again, I hate to use the word believe, but if that's something he subscribes to or not. And again, I feel cheap bringing all this stuff up. But a lot of what I find, um, for me, and being 52 years old, I probably got 35, 40 years left to look into all these answers with people like Bill. Every time I start to ask questions when it comes to things like fleas and parasites, it honestly leaves me with more questions than it does answers. And to everybody out there, atheists, agnostics, Christians, Catholics, Muslims, isn't it amazing just to look at what we all get to experience? Like I said, we are the universe aware of the universe. Whatever the final answer ends up being, um, we are so, and I hate to use the word, but I'm going to use it. We are so blessed to get to view this, and it is incredible. And whatever the answer ends up being, um, man, we are so lucky to experience. That's all I can say, is the fact that I was born and I get to experience this just blows me away. And for me, like I said at the beginning of this, or probably about, I don't know, an hour into this long conversation, I don't want to live on for eternity, but man, am I glad I was born and I got to experience this. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate that concluding statement. Like we said before, we would be more than happy to set up another one of these in the future with you two. You guys have made it fun and enjoyable. So thanks for that. Now it's Praise's moment to shine. He's got all the questions, the super chats.
What questions?
Oh, no.
That's good.
Praise, you had one job.
All right,
Okay,
so let's start off
let's
with... Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. So this is from George Bond. Super chat for $5. Thank you so much for your super chat, George. Hey, SFT, you're draining my bank account. I hope you invest it in your kids' education.
SMT. George is rich.
If you want to respond to that, SFT, you're well and welcome.
All I got to say is thanks for the super chat, George.
Word. All right, so this is from Sigifredo Sarabia. Super chat for $2. Thank you for your super chat. Bill, why give evidence that require greater than 6,000 years? I guess he's asking, why does it only have to be 6,000 years?
I am not smart enough to understand that question. What does it mean? What?
He's asking, like, why are you just trying to give evidence for a 6,000 year Earth? Why not older Earth?
Well, first, I'm older.
Oh.
I believe the Earth... No, wait. It's a joke. I believe the Earth is 6,000 years old. That's an old Earth. Thank you. You were about to get that guy up. I never brought that up. It's a whole nother debate. I believe the Earth cannot be billions of years old for many reasons. Let's just think. Take a step back and be honest. Do you really think cyanobacteria could get buried in sedimentary rock 3.5 billion years ago and not erode? Now, you might say, oh, it was really, really deep, but it's sedimentary rock, and sedimentary rock erodes. If we can build rock, or if rocks can last that long, why aren't we building our streets out of these rocks? They would have eroded by now. As you all know, the soft tissue in dinosaurs, which is an interesting thing, the evolution world fought that for 7 years, that no, there's no soft tissue in dinosaurs because they can't exist that long. And I'm sure everybody knows that now they're admitting there's collagen and blood vessels and soft tissue in dinosaurs. So what do the evolutionists do? Wow, it's just like that, man. Somehow soft tissue can be preserved that long. So if that person wants to do a whole debate on the age of the Earth, I'd be happy to. But I believe the sun, Mark talked about this, it converts mass to energy. The sun is not static, it's dynamic. It is changing. It's changing the temperature on the Earth. If the Earth were billions of years old, we would have been a big ice cube when life supposedly began and thrived because of the faint star paradox, which you can look up on my website, fishdon'twalk.com. I have a whole little article on that. But anyway, I believe in 6,000. It never came up, and I'm not ashamed to believe the Earth is 6,000, and that's an old Earth. Not as old as Mark's, but that's pretty old.
Thanks for your answer there, Bill. So this is from Sigifredo Sarabia again for $5. Thank you, Sigi. Mark, you seem to agree there are things that have no answer. Would you go as far to agree you would never find them ever? Would you consider a Pascal's wager?
Boy, these questions. I know Bill's thinking to himself right now, boy, I'm glad he didn't ask me that question. These are hard questions to answer. No, we don't have all the answers, but we don't expect to. And I know people aren't going to like that answer. And $5 only gets you a couple bags of Doritos nowadays. So that's the answer I'm going to give. Okay, we wouldn't expect to have all the answers yet. Like I said, we've only really Guys, 150 years ago, 200 years ago in Salem, we were tying witches to a post and burning them. We haven't been working on this stuff that long. So I'm happy with that. And throw them another $2 if you're not happy with my answer and do another super chat because I'm not sure how to answer that. You know, please, guys, when you ask your questions, just keep them really decisive and make it something we can answer. The whole idea here is to get these guys a little bit of money to keep this channel going and make it possible. Bill and my brain are already melted from talking to each other, you know.
Oh no, I could go. Could I say something real quickly?
Absolutely.
All right. I tried to make the point that 100 million engineers with $100 trillion could never design and build a dog. That's a combined IQ of an extremely high number that people could not build a dog with a digestive respiratory system at each other. The point is, dogs require an extremely high IQ to make, and people will never be able to uh, build a living dog. So that defers that there has to be an IQ greater than man's accumulated IQ to build a dog, where some people think nature built a dog by chance. What, nature blew some cell or blew some molecules together with some energy, and over millions, you got to wave your hands, over millions of years, you got dogs. But wait, it's got to reproduce, it's got to metabolize, it needs a female, it needs instinct, blah, blah, blah. I believe it takes this much faith to believe there's an IQ of God with an infinity, then nature made dogs, lions, and tigers, etc. Much less faith.
Thank you, Bill, and also Mark. But here's a super chat from Caleb Kismet for $5. We appreciate that. Mark, your honesty is refreshing. Praying that God will give you wisdom and answer all of your questions. Great discussion tonight, guys. Love. Emoticon.
Just thank you for your politeness, guys. I have honestly been on Young Earth Creationist sites where you know the audience is extremely rude, and I'll be honest with you, I don't want to feel like I'm you know stepping out of any side, but believe me, on both sides, atheist, agnostic, Christian, again, all the religions you can think of, the more polite you are and the more civilized we treat each other, to be honest with you, it's the way to forward your cause. Don't play into these hateful ways of talking to each other. Bill is my fellow man. You know, he is something I cherish. I cherish every one of the 8 billion people that we have on this earth, and including all the animals. We are all here together, just searching for answers.
Could I ask Mark a quickie?
Yep.
Mark, what is the main thing keeping you from saying, God, you made my tigers, you made my lions, you made me. I need to know you better, and I need to know your will.
Honestly, I wouldn't even know which God to choose, because like I said, what I read in the Christian Bible just makes no sense to me. There's just nothing there. It makes no better sense to me than reading any of the old stories of the any of the ancient gods. And that's just my honest answer, and I don't mean that disrespectful to anybody's religion, but I haven't found a religion yet that lines up with anything that I can believe. And I'm going to move back into my dining room here, but I want the people in the chat to think to themselves, look at the cathedral ceiling that Bill is sitting in and look at mine. This might be a conspiracy. We might be sitting in the same room together. I just want to show that I have a great room.
I suspected it all along there, Mark.
I just turned my air conditioning off, and you're cranking your heat. So
I turned my heat on, but I don't know. This could be a conspiracy. We might be in the same room together, same city, same people.
But Mark, important question. You might be challenged by the concept of death, but what if you just prayed, God, reveal yourself to me. I really want to know if you're out there. Have you done a 911 call like that? 911 prayer?
Yeah, honestly, Bill, I wouldn't know which God to ask. I just find so much contradictory beliefs when it comes to religion that I just can't find. Now, again, I don't know if you know or not, my wife, Tammy, I don't know if you've seen her at the beginning. She is a Christian. She was raised as a young earth creationist. I will tell you right now, and I hope her father's not watching, but she's really struggling in keeping the young earth part going since she married me. But that's not to say that she hasn't kept her faith in a God. And, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I had asked Standing for Truth, how's Matt Powell doing? And I had reached out to Matt and said, Matt, all of my thoughts are with you. This is public knowledge. I'm not letting anything out. He found out that his wife, who just gave birth, was tested positive for coronavirus. I said to him, all my thoughts are with you, and my wife is praying for you. And that's the truth. But she's lost, I believe. I don't want to speak for her. I'd have to bring her out, and she'd kill me if I did. But, being with me, she's really losing her young earth creationist belief. But for me, I don't know which God I would choose. I don't find anything compelling in any of it.
Are you willing to just pray and just throw it up there to say, reveal yourself to me, whoever you are? What have you got to lose?
No, understood.
Okay.
Understood.
And
I don't know
could
how
I
to
email
answer it.
Tammy some Young Earth PowerPoint?
Yeah, absolutely.
Through you.
Yeah, absolutely. I will make sure, Standing, I will send him an email at the end of this with Tammy's personal email, and you are welcome. I say this to you right now, and anyone out there who wants to get a hold of Standing for Truth, I will make Tammy's email address available to all of you, and I promise I will not intervene. I'm not trying to take away her faith whatsoever. So please get a hold of Standing and ask Tammy's direct email address. Actually, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's lionlovergirl.com at mail.com, not Gmail, at mail.com. So it's just lionlovergirl at mail.com. Anyone is welcome to email her.
Is that lion like the animal, or lion like I'm not telling you the truth?
No, she's not a liar. She's a Christian. She doesn't lie.
We never lie.
Actually, she is. She's the most honest girl I've ever met in my life. I can tell you that for sure. She does not lie. She's
we can't lose her to Old Earth.
Pardon? She's Young Earth. Yeah,
we can't lose her.
Yeah, she's having a lot of trouble with the Young Earth.
Okay.
Thanks for your responses, you guys. So this is from Caleb Kismet for $5. Thank you for your super chat. Mark, your honesty is refreshing. Oh, wait, gosh, I just did. I'm sorry. This is from Shadow Dancer, 3531, $10 super chat. Thank you, Shadow, for your super chat. Amazing debate. One of the best on this channel so far. Only because we've seen the change in Mark's heart. This isn't a head issue, it's a heart issue. Respond to that.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. To be honest with you, the more, like I said, I sent Standing a fairly long email earlier, and he's welcome to repost it if he wants, and cancel out any of the things that he doesn't think would be appropriate, because some of it was personal, again, like I said about Matt and my feeling on his channel. I come here to learn. I don't come here to grandstand or to try to make somebody feel like a fool. If I walked away tonight and I feel like in any way I had embarrassed Bill or Standing or I would not be happy with myself. That is not what I'm looking for. Everybody on this earth, we are all together looking for answers. I don't think anybody in their heart wants to go to bed at night feeling that they have pulled the wool over anybody's eyes. We want the answers. And at the end of the day, if evolution and blind luck is the answer, we're going to have to learn to live with it. That we are put on this earth for a very short amount of time, and this is it. Enjoy it. When you're dead, you go back to plant food. That's the way it is. If it turns out that there's a God and we go on for eternity, we had better be ready for that as well. Let's just hope. Like I said, guys, we're not into this for a long time. A couple 100 years, 150 years. We've got a lot to learn. Don't ever think we have all the answers. That would be an arrogance that would just be, I am sure they're going to look back in 100 years on what we believe today. with laughter. There's really no doubt about it. We have a lot to learn.
I'd like to say something real quick. As I read the Bible and just recount my life, I believe God likes seekers. And I really believe that if Mark continues to seek like a big old wave in the ocean, it's just going to become irresistible to him as being not just spiritual truth, but scientific truth. If people don't seek, and I'm not saying this is you, Mark, if they just want to, watch TV all day, they're not going to find God. And the Bible teaches that God often spoke, Jesus spoke in mysteries. And an atheist once said to me, "Ha, Bill, why would Jesus talk in mysteries?" And I said, "Dear Lord, please give me a quick answer." And I said, just because something's a mystery does not mean you can solve it if you pursue it. And
Exactly.
so I just hope that someday Mark's just going to say, "I'm finished with this. It's irresistible. It's true." And I hope your lions, Mark, lead you to Christ as you study every single fur on your beautiful big cat and just pet that cat and say, "How great thou art. Glory to you, God, for making these eyelashes on my cat, these whiskers." It's a wonderful, truthful, peaceful way to go through life. And we can work out the Bible too. But just
Please,
start with your cat.
please, Bill, the next time you say that, do not ask my lions or tigers to lead me to God.
That God made them for his glory.
Thanks for your responses.
I think what you're saying there, though, is not the way I want to meet my God, is through my lions.
This is from Reuven Cancino, $25 super chat. God bless you, Bill,
Wow.
SFT, Raw Man, and anyone else I did not mention. I do have a question for Mark. What is the ultimate cause of the universe?
This is philosophy, guys. It's not my strong point. What is the ultimate cause of the universe? What is the ultimate goal of the universe? What is the ultimate meaning of the universe? This is what we struggle with. We really do. And if we put a God at the top, we answer a lot of those questions. We really do. We're here to prove ourselves. We're here to prove ourselves as good. We're here to prove ourselves as worthy. I understand a lot of that makes a lot of sense and it answers a lot of questions. But if that's not the case, it leaves more questions than it does answers. It really does. And again, I hope you feel that was a very generous super chat, by the way. And I don't feel I've given you a $25 answer, but I will tell you. Maybe Bill could add a little bit to that, but again,
No worries. You guys are doing great. You guys, we really appreciate the answers you're giving. And thanks so much for that super chat as well. That's going to buy us lots of
Can I just, real quick, I think the cause is to see who spends eternity with God. We either spend eternity or we perish. A whole nother lesson, and some people might get mad at me. I do not believe the Bible teaches people burning eternity forever. God's a loving God. John 3:16 teaches people perish. They pay for their sins and they're gone. The goal is eternal life with God. And it's a very important study that I think a lot of Christians miss. And so a quickie for Mark, it's not going to have to do with hell. Do you ever think there's got to be more to life than getting up, grooming the tigers, playing with the tigers? You ever just kind of think to yourself, this is it? There's got to be more.
Boy, that's a funny question to ask. Boy, do you ever think that playing with tigers and lions in every day is a little unfull? I think you just answered yourself there, Bill. I have a pretty good life. I really do. And man, it's full. And it's exciting. I really do enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, and this kind of goes with the follow question, Bill. You just I'm not sure if he answered. What is the ultimate cause of the universe, Bill?
Yeah, like I said, I've thought a lot about this. I think we're all under a short trial in this planet of death and pain, misery, extinction, to see if we really love God or not. And if we do, if Jesus is Lord, we spend eternity. And for those who don't, again, study the Bible, and I can email people my little study on it. People who don't pay for their sins, and then sadly perish, and they're not allowed into the wedding feast. Again, I don't believe they're eternally tortured in flames. He's a loving God. They just miss out on eternal life with God. So I think that's the whole purpose.
Thanks for your response. And that's for $5. Thanks again, Ruben, for your super chats. And this is from Caleb Kismet. 2 bags of Doritos for round 2. So, that'll be a good one. Now we're to the regular questions. For Mark, and this is from George Bond. Which did creatures evolve first, the moth or the aneth? I'm sorry, gosh, I really chopped that one up. Let's restate this. Which in the creatures evolve first, the mouth or the anus?
Okay. It's like asking what evolved first, the chicken or the egg. I'm going to answer that for you. So I'm even going to give you a better answer than that. It was the egg. We have had eggs going back several millennia. A lot of animals have come from the egg. So to say what evolved first, the mouth or the anus, again, I'm not looking for cheap got you moments, but we wouldn't even need a mouth or an anus. And I've said this before in previous debates. If we were designed the way we would expect to be designed by a intelligent creator, we would not create an animal that had to daily seek out subsistence to stay alive, and then rely on a system of taking in nutrition, breaking it down, and then expelling it as waste. Again, and then that waste works its way into the ground. And I know exactly what Bill's going to say. It's an incredibly complex system, and it's circular, and it's a full loop, and it's beautiful, and it is. But to me, it points towards nature. It does not point towards a creator.
Thank you for your response. You can do a quick, Bill, if you want to respond real
Yep,
quick.
real quick. My conclusion, I did the chicken and the egg. I love that question. If it was an egg that came first, you'd need 2 eggs, 1 boy, 1 girl. Someone has to feed those newborns. They have to figure out a nest before they can get married and make more. So I believe it was 2 adult chickens, 1 male, 1 female. My dad was my hero. We never went to college, but I think he was the smartest man I ever met. We're coming back from golf, and he goes, "Son, Adam and Eve had to be adults. And how many people love their dad's philosophies?" I turned to my dad. I said, "Why?" He said, "Because babies are helpless." So to me, that makes all the sense in the world that all the animals, you need a male, a female, instantly created with a mouth and an anus and a stomach, esophagus, etc., in the same place, same time, with the right food, the right gravity, the right temperature, the right atmospheric pressure. And that takes much less faith than to believe time and chance. So you need 2 chickens, a boy and a girl. And then they have to love each other too.
And Bill, if I can just 3 seconds, not religious. I go to bed every night. My mother and father have passed away, and I go to bed every night saying, "Mom, Dad, I love yous, and I miss you." My brother's still alive, and he's actually, one of the last family members that I have on this earth. Every night I go to bed and I say to myself, "Bill, I love you." So what does that mean? I don't know.
Could I
Who
ask
am
you
I
a
talking to?
quick personal question, and you can say no comment? Mark?
Yep.
Okay, you can say no comment. Did you have a bad religious experience?
No, not at all. I was brought up in a home. Canada's a little different. We don't have heavy pockets of religion. It's not like the States. It's not like the southern states where we have these areas where if you're brought up, you're probably brought up in very strictly religious families. You find pockets of it to the west. But no, I was brought up in a home where religion, honestly, Bill, was never even suggested to me. And I hate to say it, but the only um, exposure to religion I ever had was I would wake up on a Sunday morning and watch them on TV begging for money and claiming to heal people and stuff. So it wasn't even something was proposed to me as an option. I never understood it at all. But with that said, I went to bed every night with my mother saying the Lord's Prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord, yeah, my soul to take. That was something my mom did with me, but she was not religious. In Canada, we started out our mornings singing "O Canada," and then we would do the Lord's Prayer. Now all that stuff has been thrown away. And to be honest with you, as a person that didn't even understand what religion was, we just didn't question it. We didn't even know why we were saying the Lord's Prayer when we went to bed. We never even thought about why we were doing the Lord's Prayer in the morning when we started school. And how sad is that as youth, that we don't even question the things that we are doing? We just take it as a social construct and we do it, and I admit it's a really funny thing, and I can't believe myself the way I think now as an adult, that I never questioned it as a youth.
Could I ask a Bible trivia question to pray standing? And it's not to see who's the smartest, but I have an important trivia question. You want to play too, standing for truth and praise that I am? Bible trivia?
Yeah, sure.
I want in on this too.
Okay, Mark's in too. Did Jesus ever yell and scream at people?
No.
Okay, Mark says no. What do you think, praise?
Yes.
Standing?
No.
Okay, well, Mark, I hope you at least read the book of John. Jesus yelled and screamed at religious phonies. You use the word religion a lot, and I respect that, but Jesus hated religious phonies, and he was such a tough guy. A lot of people think he's this little mamby-pamby in a manger Jesus. No, he kicked major butt to people who deserve the good butt kicking, but loves to death the innocent. And it's so the word religion often is negative. Jesus didn't like the religious phonies either. He loved honest, sincere seekers, and I hope that's what you become. And maybe push away from that religion word, because I think there's a stigma with that word with you. And I'm not playing psychologist. Just
I
seek
think
God. Don't
you're
worry about
saying I'm
religion.
wrong. He did yell and scream. What?
Absolutely. Yeah, he called people foxes,
Yeah, Matthew
whitewashed
23.
tombs.
Yep.
Huh?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
awesome. He was a tough guy, like us.
Okay. Send me where to find it in the Bible. Old Testament, New. Where is that?
Matthew 23.
No.
Okay. I'll look into that.
Yeah.
All right. So this is another question from George Bond. Question for Mark. Do you think that MO1 bacteria with 7 flagella and 24 interconnecting gears spinning in the opposite direction is the product of chance?
Well, the flagella has been looked at continuously. We've gone back and forth on this. Every single thing that I look in, they bring this stupid thing up. And it goes back to the the complexity. Can you have this without that? Can you have a motor without connecting rods? Can you have a motor without a crank? No. Can you have it without a piston? So my answer is, again, can you have a mouth without an anus? Can you take in food without being able to expel the waste? Again, I hate doing these answers, but my strength has never been biology, because to be honest with you, I just don't have a mind for that. Some people have a mind for math. Some people have a mind for just being able to see where my strength is. Honestly, I can look at things and see loads. I can see where things are going to break. I can see where things are going to fail. I think Bill will know what I mean. There's several different kind of minds, and
Mm-hmm.
mine is a very mathematical. I see where things are going to fail. When I look at biology, I just look at it and go, "Wow, that's I don't get it." Chemistry to me, it just, and it's not that I don't care about it. I just don't have a mind that understands it. So I know exactly what they're saying. I've watched many YouTube debates where this is brought up. I believe that it was brought up even in the Dover case, was it not, the flagellum? I think they brought it up, irreducible complexity. Um, yeah, it's beating the same dead horse. I don't have any intelligence above anyone else that has argued this that would be able to make a valid point towards this. And I want to give Bill enough time to, chime in.
And I politely think the conclusion can often drive the hypothesis.
Yeah,
And
that too.
My hope is a year from now, Mark will be on this side talking about the wonderful designs of his cats and the ears. And but I respect, but I think, again, the conclusion is being impacted by the philosophical opinion. But just keep seeking, Mark. I tell you what, it took me 3 years before I finally just realized I got to repent. I, I I claimed to be a Christian at 26. I studied the Bible. I wrote notes in the Bible. I was evangelizing, but personally, I never felt I was a Christian until I repented. And
Right.
so I
How
shared
old are you, Bill?
60.
60. I'm 52. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I think for
Wait, can I
me,
finish my point real quick?
yeah, or go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. So I knew the Bible. I was reading it, but I was in sin, big sin. I didn't kill anybody, but it's something the Bible said not to do. And at the age of 29, I just irresistible. I said, I got to knock this off. I just got to try living God's way. And that's the first time I felt a relationship. So everybody, including me, would love instant conversions, but it often takes a lot of counting of the cost and time. So I just hope Mark keeps seeking and follows, which is irresistibly true in my opinion.
Thank you for your responses. This is from Iger Television. Question for Mark: how were the oceans formed?
Well, the oceans were formed from the the waters that came in with the asteroids. Like when we look at asteroids, we see almost a perfect water to solid ratio that we do see on the Earth. So I don't know if he's looking for a more in-depth answer than that, but the asteroids that we do still see in outer space, what a shitty word, outer space, that we see in space, that we see in space are full of water. I know I've heard a lot of debates, and I don't think Bill is going to claim this because he's an engineer. He's a very smart man. All the comet we look at when we see the comet trails, we are seeing moisture. We are seeing water being traced off. So yeah, water is very abundant. That is not something that we doubt anymore. Water is very abundant. And I think both Bill and I are absolutely on the same page that it comes to that we are part of a very vast universe. Yeah, I don't think there's any debate there at all, and I'll let Bill, answer that too.
Well, to quote someone, they said they were on an airplane over the ocean flying to Hawaii, and a lady said to him, "Wow, look at all that water." And the guy said, "Yeah, and it's really deep too." We see the surface of the earth. Thank you very much. I'm here all week. Tip the waiter. I like to have fun.
Yeah.
We see the earth's surface as 3/4 water, but my goodness, is it deep too? And I think it takes a lot of faith to believe a whole bunch of asteroids could fill that up. But again, I think that the conclusion driving the hypothesis and seeking, it blows me away to believe that God spoke into existence the oceans. But it would blow me more away to think they compiled from asteroids over umpteen years. A lot of
With
water.
that said, yeah, I agree, Bill. But with that said, the oceans do account for less than 1% of the mass of the Earth. So, I know it looks like a lot of water. I know they're very deep. I know they cover a lot of the surface, but water is exactly where we would expect to be, based on its mass and its density. And it is less than 1%, way less than 1% of the total mass of the Earth. So, we'll kind of leave it at that. But yeah, the oceans are great. no doubt about it. As Trump would say, they're bigly beautiful and they're tremendous.
What would Trudeau say?
What would Trudeau say? I have no idea. I'm actually not a Trudeau hater because being Canadian, I can't help but like being polite, and that man is a polite guy, and I think that's why people hate him so much is because he is just very polite, and Canada doesn't do rude, and standing for truth is Canadian, and that's why he runs a channel like he does. I don't think he would let people on here that are rude, to be honest with you. We don't do rude up here.
Very good. So this is from Luca Medungo. Bill, what you will do if a god shows up himself, like if Zeus will appear to us? Have you ever considered possibility of a god different from the one you worship in the Bible?
Well, I would have two questions for him. First question is, why did you make mosquitoes? And second, why do teenagers get zits? Think back to your teenage years when you're most self-conscious of how you look, you get the pimples. Okay, that didn't go over too well. It was supposed to be a joke. So I don't really understand the question. God shows up, and what? If I'm wrong?
Yeah, if he appeared in front of you, let me see this again.
And he's a different God. He's not the Christian God.
Right.
If he's another God, how would you accept that? I'm actually going to step in and then let Bill answer. All I can say if there is a God, he's not going to be so petty to worry about what his name is. I don't think he's going to be worried about his name. If there's a God, he'll be just happy with us appreciating what he did for us. But go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
Well, one cool thing about the Bible, and again, I hope you read it, Mark, you'll love it, is
I have. I really enjoy it. I look at it as history. I love it.
Well, people are a bunch of bumbling, dumb sheep stumbling through life, and I don't think God's going to say, wow, I can't believe this. One of the coolest things in the Bible, I don't know about cool, is Peter, I'll die for you. I'll die for you. A few hours later, I don't know the guy.
Yeah.
So God knows what bumbling people we are and how desperately as sheep we need a shepherd. But if he were to say to me, you're wrong, I'm going to talk engineer to engineer with Mark.
Yeah.
I'm being humble here, but I've had a very, very successful career as an engineer because of my humility. I love being humble. I had to design, long story, we were forced to convert vehicles to alternate fuel. And they said, hey, Morgan, I work at a Navy base. He said, Morgan, convert a bunch of vehicles to alternate fuels. And I said, well, what's an alternate fuel? Make a long story short. I call smart people and listen to smart people and to say, I don't know anything about this stuff. And to me, good engineering is massive humility where you're willing to not know everything and talk to people. If I had to design a carburetor, I'd call Mark Drysdale in Ontario, Canada and say, hey, Mark, I can't even spell carburetor. So I have no problem saying I'm wrong. If God said, hey, knucklehead, you're wrong, I'll say, you're right, I am wrong. So pride is the number one enemy of God, the Bible teaches. God loves the humble.
Yeah,
so let's all be humble.
Give me 2 seconds here. I totally agree with Bill. So here's my strength when it comes to engineering. I'm always called in to talk to people who got it wrong. So, for example, I worked on the Bombardier Spider. It was this 3-wheeled thing that Bombardier came out with here in Canada. It had a terrible vibration in it. And they came to me and they said, hey, we talked to the guys at KTM and they said, you might be able to figure this out. It had a terrible sympathetic frequency vibration that would come through the handlebars. And they came to us and said, their engineers are not going to want you to come in here and tell them how to fix this. How are you going to handle this? And I said, I'm going to go in there, and by the end of the day, I'm going to make them think that it was their idea on how to fix it. That is how human beings are. Nobody wants to be proven wrong, and nobody wants someone to walk in and prove them wrong. You know something? If there's a God and we got his name wrong, it turns out to be the Muslim God. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. There was a God. He's going to be okay with us calling him the wrong name. He knows, like Bill said, that we are bumbling idiots, that we did the best that we could, to figure out who he was with the information that he gave us, we'll figure it out from there. Like I said, I'm still not to the point where, I'm willing to accept that, but I will accept the point that if there is a God, I'm not too worried about me getting it right. Everybody, live your life as pure as you can. Be good to your fellow man. Be good to animals. Be good to the world. And at the end of the day, if on your deathbed, if you have to ask a God to help you, I have a feeling you're going to have a better chance of getting into heaven than if you've lived a shitty life as a Christian and gone to church every Sunday and asked for forgiveness, but acted like a total asshole. Hate to use that word with 3 Christians here, but
Penis.
live your life good, treat your fellow man good, treat this earth good and the animals on it. And I think you're going to have a lot stronger case as an atheist that has lived a decent life, honest life, pure life, than a Christian that has been a total hypocrite.
Well, I believe the Bible teaches there are degrees of punishment, and both of those people, in my opinion, would face punishment and then perish. But why wait till the last second? And I say, why do you delay? Seek now what the truth is instead of hoping you're conscious on the bed. And the Bible also says, God, be not deceived. God is not mocked. To me, it's mocking God by saying, well, I'm going to wait till the last minute and you got to let me in. Yeah, I don't think we should deal with the creator of the universe in that way. That would be mocking him. But a lot of Christians, I think, are in a lot of trouble by their horrible walk. But Mark, don't ever try to see God through a person. Look directly to God. If you try to see God through me, you're going to get a distorted picture.
Yeah, we got to try to get through. Okay, I think we're getting like 3 hours, so we might try to speed this up a little bit. This is from Caleb Kismet, $20 super chat. Thank you. He says the best debate this year for where 2 or 3 have gathered together my name, I am there in the midst.
Thanks.
Ecclesia.
Yeah. So this is from Science is Observable. Question for Mark Drysdale. Do you consider directed panspermia, the idea that the origin of life on Earth came about via intelligent intervention by alien civilizations, a possible explanation for the origin of life?
No, I don't believe that. And here's the reason. We know how vast the universe is, and Bill, being an engineer, is going to understand that. Not understand, but agree. Sorry for saying that way, Bill. The speed of light is our big barrier, and I know science fiction has dealt with it since we've been producing television. We can't get anywhere in this universe, even at the speed of light. If we could go 10 times the speed of light, we still can't get anywhere. And there's not enough energy in the universe to go the speed of light. We can't go 99.9% of it with the energy that we have in the universe. So I do not believe that, this is just me personally. You asked me. I don't believe in UFOs. Do I believe there's other life forms in the universe? Absolutely. If you said to me right now, Mark, I'll give you $1,000. I'd go $100. Is there life anywhere else in this universe? I would honestly take that bet against my life, and that's pretty serious. This is my life for $100, but I know for sure I'm going out tomorrow night for a steak dinner with my wife. That's how sure I am that there is life elsewhere in this universe. If it formed on Earth, it had to form somewhere else.
Thank you for your response. Bill, you can make a quick response.
Super quick.
Yep.
A very good Christian friend of mine was writing a book on UFOs, and he said, Bill, what do you think about UFOs? And I said, they're unidentified. So of course you believe it. I believe most of them are weather balloons or people trying to get attention. I'm a skeptic. I'm an empiricist. I want to see evidence. I don't believe in UFOs.
Thank you for your responses. This is from Anthony Maurice. This is a comment to Mark. You are the most reasonable atheist I've seen. I think you actually could come to God one day. Keep studying the origin of life. That's what changed my mind.
Well,
Honestly, I'm not an atheist. I can't, my wife, since the day I met her, she said, Mark, you're not an atheist, you're an agnostic. You just heard me say I don't have a name for God. I don't if there is a supernatural agent out there, I will guarantee you there's only going to be one, because we know how man is. You imagine only two
Hmm.
men on this earth, we would fight to the point there's only one. So there's definitely only one all powerful, if we end up proving a if it's even provable, a all powerable all oh, wow, what are we up to here? 1 o'clock. um if there is a all powerful, there is only going to be one. So, like I said, at the end of the day, I don't like the word atheist, and I can't help but think that God doesn't like being called the Christian God. I know what you're thinking, sacrilege, but come on. It's just, if there is a God, it's going to be one. And I think Bill has pointed out several times that we are bumbling idiots, that we don't really know. So I think if there is a God at the end of the day, we'll be forgiven for, at least the people that believe, just because they got, a few of the facts wrong. I think they'll still be accepted. And honestly, I've done some great things. I don't consider myself a sinner. I really don't. I really try to live a pure life. I really do.
You have a quick response, Bill, if you want to say something.
Yeah. We're bumbling idiots, but we still can try. And if we compare ourselves to Hitler, we're looking pretty good. But we compare
Oh yeah,
ourselves to our mom and dad, we're not, right? And quick engineering thing, I believe absolutely there's only one God. There has to be someone in charge.
yeah,
And engineering story, Mark might agree. Anytime I got a project, committees never work. There's got to be one
no,
guy in charge of that project, right, Mark? And
yeah,
everybody
yeah,
answers to
yeah,
him. You can be
yeah.
the charge, I'll be in charge, but we can't both be in charge. Amen.
Yeah, yeah, I just did a video for people looking to train their lions, and I said, look, if someone's already giving you opinions, do not take anything that I'm saying here with a grain of salt. Stay with your one trainer, because you get too many cooks in the kitchen. And guess what? You've got
Yep.
a disaster. You have spoiled the pudding. Do not mix my opinion with his opinion, with this guy's opinion, and then walk in with lions or tigers and think you're going to live. You need a very concise
Yep.
pathway, and follow your path wherever it takes you.
Yep. Lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Exactly.
So this is a part. It's like two-part question. So I think this is directed at Mark. If
Please for
evolution
Bill.
is
Please be
true,
for Bill. Please be for Bill. Please be for Bill.
why aren't there humans with full body hair in climates with freezing temperatures? Why are they the same as those
Mm.
in scorching hot climates? And to add the end, here's part two. You can't have a mouth without an anus unless your anus is your mouth and your mouth is your anus. So it's like a statement and a question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope no one on here is Italian, but when you talk about full body hair, all I can say is, have any of you ever seen an Italian woman or man? My God, they hair, you know, we are not the way we look. If you seen me 2 years ago, I had hair down to my ass. I honestly did. I used to play in heavy metal. I played drums. I used to play in heavy metal bands. So I had to have the whole hairdo and everything. And to be honest with you, just one day I said, I've had enough of the hair. But yeah, I used to have hair down, way past almost to my butt. If we didn't shave, we would have hair, down to our belly buttons in the form of a beard. We do not actually look the way we think we look. If you want to know how we look, get women not to put on makeup. Don't shave your armpits. I know this has sounded weird to people. Don't shave your legs. Don't shave your face. Don't cut your hair. Then we do start to very much look like our animal counterparts. So in that sense, I kind of disagree. And what was the second part of the question there? I'll make it really short.
Yeah. Why are they the same as those in scorching hot climates?
Well, they're not, and that's the funny thing. Again, you look at people of African descent, and they have the ability to not absorb the sun rays. You know, this is all about absorbing vitamin C or vitamin E, whatever it is. Bill
D,
might be able to help. E,
D,
E,
delta.
D, vitamin D. I was so close. I circumvented it. So you got vitamin D from the sun. You know, you get closer to the equator, you don't need as much of it. We start heading into the Norwegian climates. Boy, are very white and fully available to absorb. I do believe that Bill will even agree with me that there has definitely been some amount of evolution because we just look at man, and there is such variance between the Australian Aboriginal all the way up to let's go as white as we can find with the Norwegian women or men. Yeah, you agree, Bill?
Oh, there's a lot of variation. I remember exactly where I was. I was stuck in a traffic jam on the 57 freeway, and they had a creation guy on the radio. He said something I thought was awesome. He said evolution is all about more efficient reproduction. Okay. Supposedly, bacteria is the ancestor of me, Mark, and everybody else listening. What is the most efficient reproducing organism on the planet? Bacteria.
Bacteria.
What is the least efficient reproducing organism on the planet?
Man.
Humans, by far. And look
Mhm.
at our offspring. Daydream about this. Our offspring are pretty much helpless until they're about maybe
Yep.
6 or 7. Okay? I
18
think
nowadays. Get into the millennial way of thinking. 30, 35, they're ready to move out.
I have 3 kids, but this is being recorded. No, sorry. But we lower their expectations, and I'm guilty of that too.
Right.
But anyways, bacteria is the most efficient. Humans are by far the least efficient, and so I daydreamed about this, and I said, I believe God wants us to nurture a family. Where Mark, I know you have kids, right?
Yep.
Your kids can drive you crazy, but you would take a bullet for your kids.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of family I think that God wants to nurture. And as to body hair, I tease my son just the other day. I tease my kids all the time. I go, the dog doesn't need to wear socks. Why do you need to wear socks? Well, I think God designed us to be smart enough. You were talking about your sweatshirt earlier, to put on a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, etc., that we're not a highly evolved ape. We're a special organism with the ability to use things like this. And we're also by far the least efficient reproducing organism on planet. We're unique. We're not bacteria.
Very good. So this is from Javier Ramos. I have a question for Mark. Do you think everything has a design and a purpose, and why?
Wow. A lot of philosophy. I think that time will unfold in a direction that is unchangeable. I am one of those believers that you cannot change destiny. I think if at the end of the day you get to a fork in the road, I honestly feel that direction has already been chosen for you. And I say that in a less than 30-second answer here, and I may not be answering exactly what he's asking for, but when I was 19 years old, I found myself in the hospital having a car accident, and I had a daughter that was 3 years old, Ashley. And I had gotten into a car accident, and it basically killed me. I died for 17 minutes on the operating table. I threw a blood clot that went to my heart, and I died. So it was from that day forward that I clearly started thinking to myself that you have to live every day for that day, that nothing is truly predetermined for you. And don't ever take tomorrow as a for sure. Don't take a sunset or a sunrise as being owing to you. Live every day like it's your last, And again, you know, I don't mean to get too deep, but I am one of those rare people on earth that truly did die. The only reason that I was brought back when I was 19 years old, this was in 1989. I crashed a Fiero. I don't know if anyone remembers the Pontiac Fiero, but I crashed one of those into a plow, a snow plow head on. I was on my way home from work, and you know, I found myself 4 weeks later. It's a long story on how I got there, but I found myself in Hamilton. I'd been transferred out of St. Catharines to Hamilton, and I was on the operating table. I threw a clot, went to my heart. The fact that that clot let go had nothing to do with the fact that I was being operated on. It was just chance that I happened to be in an operating room that had bypass equipment to keep me alive. So they were able to put me instantly on bypass to keep my brain alive while they tried to get my heart going. They were about to give up, and the nurse said, "Let me shock them one more time." They told me the story. This is not made up. I know people are full of shit. This is not made up. The nurse said, "Let me shock them one more time." They shocked me one more time. Apparently they seen something on the screen that they thought looked promising. I did not come back to life. They shocked me again. My heart started up again. They cleared the clot by massaging my heart. And the next thing I knew is I woke up to all of my family, my cousins, my uncles, my mom, my dad, my wife, and my baby standing in front of me. Honest story, not looking for sympathy, but that is how much you have to take every second of the day as being a gift and not for granted.
Mark, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Were you thankful to the doctors for your heart beating?
Yeah, absolutely. Science is amazing. Honestly, if this happened in 1989. So in 89, they had the technology to get my heart going again, but they were really bad in fixing bones. They had me in traction, thinking that all the broken bones in my left leg. What I did is as I was about to crash into the snowplow, is I for some reason it was a standard, and I pushed in on the clutch and I locked my leg forward, which caused every bone in my left leg to shatter. And back then, we had the technology as far as cardio goes. The reason I threw a clot is they didn't have me on Coumadin when I was in St. Catharines, so my blood got too thick. They transferred me to Hamilton. Long story short, they did a terrible job bone-wise. If you look at any of my videos, you'll see I have a terrible limp on my left side. But hey, they saved me, and I see no lights. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
There is lights.
Well, just a quick point, and you can dismiss it, but if you're thankful for the doctors to start your heart, I think you should be thankful to God for giving you a heart and blood and bones and muscles, etc. And just to add to that too, this isn't meant to offend Mark, but for the other people out there, we got this virus going, and I'm not going to get deep into it, but everybody's got problems. And if you only dwell on your problems, you can get grief and sorrow in your life. So my advice I'd love to give to everybody, whenever you're feeling the blues, bullied, lonely, afraid, scared, take a step back, and this is what I suggest they say. Dear God, thank you for my eyes. Thank you for my ears. Thank you for my hands. Thank you for my feet. Thank you for my heart. You are so good to me. 5 different things. Whenever you get depressed, take a little step back and be thankful. Because imagine you're in a small boat. Grief and thankfulness cannot share the boat with you. If you're being thankful, you can kick grief out. But you might need to do this all day long. Mark used to be in a band. I would bet that he was in a real big adrenaline rush after a show, and then maybe 2 hours later, you have an adrenaline drop. So life is up and down. Everybody gets grief, depression, and sad. Take a step back and be thankful. And Mark, I hope you are thankful to the doctor and for the great physician who made your heart. That's a great gift to be thankful for, Mark.
I am. And nobody ever forget. Compare your problems with somebody who's dying of cancer. You have no problems. Don't ever forget that. Be thankful every day you wake up.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, this is kind of a follow-up question to that for Mark. If life could have no meaning, then would you answer a person with suicidal thoughts who believes life has
Mm.
no meaning because once you die, you're done, no afterlife?
Uh,
Wow.
I'm sorry. I don't know what he's asking there. Um, Suicide on both sides, whether you're religious, agnostic, atheist, I don't care who you are. It's never the answer. It's a mental condition. Um, I don't, even in the Bible, you know, suicide is a sin. Do not. If you have a mental condition that is pushing you towards giving up on life, you know, it's a mental condition, but I'm not sure. I really hope, I just don't understand the question. Bill, am I missing something, or do you misunderstand it kind of a
I
little
Yeah,
think
bit?
I
you're
think,
saying, why
yeah,
not kill yourself if there's no meaning? Why put up with the pain? Like, just suppose someone was being sexually abused by their uncle. They were
Yeah.
hungry. Everybody
Okay, I
thought they
didn't
were a piece of
understand.
garbage. Why
Yeah.
put up with the pain?
Yeah, okay, now I understand. I completely misunderstood the question. Here's the answer to this. All life is full of pain, and it's all relative. And we kind of answered that on the question before this. Don't ever think what you're going through in life. I guarantee you, whatever you're going through today that you think is absolutely unsurmountable, you will never get over it. There are people out there in this world that would dream of waking up tomorrow morning in your situation. Nothing is ever unsurmountable. And as human beings, we are designed to overcome adversity. And the best part about belonging to a social network is there's always people out there to reach out to who are willing to help you. There are great people in all communities, whether you're atheist, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're the worst of atheists. You're the worst of sinners. Walk into a church and ask for help. Walk into anywhere and ask for help. If you're to the point where you're ready to give up, there's always somebody who has it worse than you.
Well,
thank
well,
you.
quickie here. One of my passions is evangelizing. I love to talk to kids as they are on college campuses or they leave a high school, and I'll often get right to the point. I'll often say, "Do you ever have suicidal thoughts?" Just one on one, no video camera, and so many kids say they do. And I say, "Do you know how I know that God loves you?" And they'll say, "How?" He gave you eyes. He gave you arms. He gave you legs. He gave you knees. I say, you are so precious and special to God. People will let you down. Uh, God will not. He gave you many gifts because He loves you. And I love to ask kids this: do you know any haters? And many kids will say, "Oh yeah." I say, "Why do haters hate?" I'll quiz everybody in this room just for fun. Why do you think haters hate? Why do bullies bully?
They're
Oh,
jealous of your life. Always. They're jealous of your life. I go through this all the time. I have haters out there like you wouldn't believe.
hmm. Well, I
That's my
think,
opinion.
well, that's a great answer. I think first off, haters hate themselves.
Yeah, that's
Up,
what I
up,
mean. They don't like
right,
sorry, that's exactly
right.
what I meant. They don't like their lives, so they want to bring your life down to their level. It's the same as putting somebody down. Instead of building yourself up, you want to bring them down to your level.
Right. If you love your life and your peace and joy, you're not going to bully anybody. So
Yeah,
I tell young people that get suicidal because of bullying, haters hate. They hate themselves. They want you to be miserable.
yeah.
What you need to do is tell these haters, I'm going to pray for you. But don't care what they think about you. Think what God cares about you. But actually, it's so powerful to pray for your enemies. Mark, you got to read the Bible on that. If you pray for your enemies, you're taking the chains off of your hands. You're not committing self murder anymore. You're releasing it. So say, I forgive that bully. God, please give him peace. But haters hate their lives, and that's why they want you to be miserable. Don't let it happen.
Yeah, we gotta
Yeah,
try to
it's
wrap
funny.
this up.
It's funny you say that, Bill, because my wife says the exact same things. You'll never be at peace until you learn to forgive. She tells me that every day.
Powerful.
Very good. So this is from Basement Dweller. Question from Mark. How much is infinity times 2?
Yeah, when you know what I mean. Bill Infinity and Basement Dweller. Come on, man. Get out there, get a job. Become a part of society. Become productive. Basement Dweller. Oh my God.
Is there a history there?
So this is from Anthony Maurice. A comment. Is Mark aware that an abiogenesis has never been shown once and there is more problems in progress?
Yeah, we wouldn't expect it. It's has it been shown once? Well, we believe it has. And then for it to be shown again, would we expect a second? No, we would not, because once life has been formed, we would expect life to either kill life or feed on life. So, you know, it's not really that strong of an argument on you know, on my beliefs, but you know, take it for what it is. Bill can answer there too if he wants.
I love this question because I've often thought if the atheistic worldview is true, and this is half joke but half serious, what's preventing me to go to bed at night and a whole new universe is creating itself inside my mouth or creating itself inside a sealed
Whispers.
jar? Why aren't universes popping up all over like corn in a cornfield? You see where I'm getting at? But atheists will say, well, it only happened once. Why? If it happened once, it could happen many times. But this would be a quickie just for fun. Imagine chemical matter and energy mixed together and created life. That's great. It's got to be able to metabolize, bring in energy, and use it for it to stay alive. It's got to be able to reproduce. It's got to be able to mutate without dying to become Mark's lions and become Mark and become redwood trees. It's a complete blind faith position to believe life came from non-life, could reproduce, metabolize, mutate, respond to stimuli. It's not just becoming alive, it's staying alive and reproducing. So again, the faith for the creationists, I think, gets smaller the deeper you dig, and it gets astronomical for the, and I'm not calling you an atheist, Mark, for the atheist to believe life could do all those magical things and only once.
And my follow up to that would be very short. That we haven't experienced anything really past the moon. I know we've landed landers on Mars, but we got a whole big universe out there that life could have fired up, independent of Earth. We haven't got there yet. We don't know.
So here's the last question. I don't know if this is like a joke or I don't even know how to. So I don't even know how to specify this. So, what time is it on Pluto, Mark?
Basement?
That's an easy answer. The time on Pluto is the same as what is up and down on Earth. I just actually had a debate with a flat earther, and I told him I've been to Australia, and I actually stood over a sink and watched the vortex go down the sink the absolute opposite way. It really does happen. It is true. You go to the southern hemisphere, it goes down backwards. Coriolis effect goes down backwards. And then he said to me, well, you were standing upside down on the bottom of the earth looking at a sink going upside down. That makes a lot of sense. And I said to him, there is no up or down in space. I would say the same with time. Time is relative. Time is something that we give to Earth. The time here is not the same as the time even in Australia. Right now, what is it, close to 1 o'clock in the morning where I live. I live in a different time than even Bill is in. Standing is in my same time zone. Praise I am. I'm not sure where he is, but
Oklahoma.
time is relative to where you are.
One of my favorite bands, and Mark is a heavy metal guy, will know this. Does anybody really know what time it is?
There you go.
Chicago. Are they one
Well,
of your favorites?
Yeah, they're good.
that's
Oh,
all the
fantastic.
questions. SFT, if you want to close it out, go ahead.
Wow, that was a great debate. Definitely one to remember. As you can tell from the super chats, many people complimented both you gentlemen. Kept it fun, engaging, respectful. So thanks so much. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Very lively. Lots of good questions. I'm glad we were able to get through them all, even though this debate nearly went 3.5 hours. So I'm glad, Mark, you were able to take a quick bathroom break. And honestly, thanks for both, giving us your time because, I mean, for me, the 3 hours flew by. So I hope it was as much fun for you guys as it was for us.
Yeah,
it's closer to
I had a
4.
blast.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I understand to keep things variable here, not to get into a rut. You don't want to do the same debates, within too close of a time. But I really hope, like I said, I gave Bill Tammy's email address. I actually gave it to everybody. I would love to engage, and now that we've had this kind of preliminary, lay all of our cards out on the table. We can kind of zone in on some stuff. And if that's what people want, get a hold of Standing for Truth and let them know that they, give some suggestions on where we would like, where they would like to see us, focus if we kind of left anything, unanswered. Kind of, zero us in, and we'll go back and see what we can do with kind of focusing in.
And if anybody wants to call me, I would love it. I'll give my phone number, 714, like a robot, 898-8331. Atheist, believer, undecided, give me a call. It's a landline. I still have a landline too. So $4 a month.
And please, no prank calling Bill, okay?
I've talked to a few of those people, and we've had good talks.
Good.
Some of them have come to Christ.
And Mark, we plugged in your channel. What is it? Roaring Cat Retreat. So like I said at the beginning of the debate, you got some solid videos there. I suggest everybody go check it out. So thanks again, guys. Unless you guys have some final words, Praise, unless you got some final words, I think we're going to call it a night.
Nope, that's been 3.5 hours.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, and enjoy the rest of your night. And in California, it's only 10 o'clock here, or whatever it is, 9:30 here.
Yep.
It's 12:30. You could still go out for dinner. I got to go to bed.
Okay.
The party just getting started.
Yeah. Right. Thanks a lot, guys, and send me some emails. You guys got my email address, and Tammy forwards everything to me. And like I said, if you want to send her some personal messages, I have no problems with that at all.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, Praise, shut her down.
Good night, guys.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Bill.
Thank you, Mark. Bye.